tuned in to Frankie and the 4Fs. Come on. The only podcast giving you the latest news on famous people fighting females and fear. It's Frankie and the 4Fs. Frankie and the 4Fs. Frankie and the 4Fs. You're never gonna forget. Never forget Frankie and the 4Fs. Yes, here we go. There's only one place, and this is the show. Yo.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Podcast number 15. So it is official. The video recording is happening this Sunday with Corey Minto and Joe Ramundi. I have two buddies coming in that are going to get pretty crazy. So Corey Minto is a huge flat earther and big conspiracy guy. And then my buddy Joe is a complete opposite and believes in round earth and believes he's been abducted by aliens. And they always love to argue and get after things. So Sunday, video recording. It will be up on my website. I'll keep you posted on when it's going to be up on the website. But this Sunday will be recorded and out and streamed on Monday. So that being said, we got a couple of new sponsors coming this week as well. I have some really good updates, but I can't tell you till Wednesday. So I'll tell you at the next podcast when that will be out, probably Thursday or Friday. So when that comes out, I'll tell you all about the new sponsors that we got coming up. And yeah, it's a steamroll of positive and good stuff coming. So today's podcast is going to be super cool because I've known this individual for going on 10 years now. Yes, we met on the mats back at South Broad Street at the old Ricardo Almeida's. This dude is super smart, well-read, super influential, and I love his mindset, and I love everything that he's all about and says. He is an author.
Yes, sir.
Newly engaged.
Yes, sir.
Newly father to a puppy. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, our BJJ instructor and owner of Matakas Jiu-Jitsu, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Chris Matakas.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Yeah, bro.
This is awesome.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy to have you. After all these years, and we've grown in so many different facets in our life, and you've gone right, and I've gone left, and we're in two different, realms here, but we're still growing and learning and,
That's it, man.
creating our brand and, just bringing life to life. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of crazy.
It's awesome to pursue personal development in very different ways, but we're doing the same thing.
Right.
Just becoming whatever it is we're supposed to be.
Right. And I feel like people struggle with that, like is trying to understand what they're supposed to be and do,
Yeah.
And with you is great because, now you're an author of 7 books, which we're going to get into. And who would have thought you would have, everybody that gets into jiu-jitsu, right, is like, oh, I want to get my black belt. Like that's the goal, right? White belt has never quit. It's get our black belt. Okay, now you get your black belt. Then do you want to open up your school? Or do you just want to be a competitive jiu-jitsu player? Or do you want to go into MMA?
Yeah.
Or now they have combat jiu-jitsu. Or like some people can't teach. There's black belts out there that can't teach. They know the basics, but they don't know how to talk to people. They don't know the structure. They just know how to do the moves, how to compete, how to get through it. Like where in your brain, even though you think very differently from a lot of people, did you understand the concept and bring jiu-jitsu full circle to where all right, I have my black belt, and it's time to open up a school and really, spread my knowledge?
Well, I started the week after I graduated college. And because I graduated college and I realized I was still a boy,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that rite of passage yet. And I tried a jiu-jitsu class, and I loved it. It was a problem worth solving. Like, it was so complex. Your first intro class, you learn a hip toss, you learn a cross-collar choke.
Yeah.
You feel like it's a superpower. I was just like, I'm willing to dedicate myself to solve this problem.
Right.
And that was at 22 years old. And then I got my blue belt in 6 months or so, and then joined the MMA team. That's when we met.
Yeah.
And then I fell in love with teaching, and I realized that it was a vehicle to serve people. That's a way you could have a tangible benefit on the lives of people. I saw how much jiu-jitsu changed my life, your life, all of our
Right.
teammates, and I wanted to share it with as many people as possible. And it started out as I didn't like that there were people less moral than me who could physically hurt me.
Right.
I think that was the primary motivation. And then I fell in love with it and intellectually wanted to try to solve the problem of jiu-jitsu. And then it was a vehicle for service. And it was my way to leave a mark on my community.
Right. Right.
And here we are.
And here we are. And here we are. And that's crazy because you're absolutely right. Like, I teach jiu-jitsu, but it's just not my thing.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can teach and I can get with it and I can, study the sport more and learn why things work, why things don't work and whatnot. But, like, if I'm still fighting for some reason, I hate teaching. If I'm getting ready for a fight, I don't want to teach. Because, like, you not figuring it out is going to annoy me and then nobody's going to win here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's why I didn't like competing, because I felt I had to really focus on myself.
Right.
And when you got those questions from students, you were less inclined to be there with them and answer them
Mm-hmm.
because you were focusing on your training. And like for the brief time that we fought MMA together, I boxed to learn how to hit people. I wrestled to learn how to take people down. But I did jiu-jitsu because I loved jiu-jitsu. It
Right.
was the only thing I did for me. When I realized that, I was just like, I'm not doing anything else.
Mm-hmm.
This is it.
This is it. And
Yeah.
now this is your life.
Yeah.
With a new studio right here. You
Yep.
can give it a plug. Give it a plug.
Oh, yeah. So we are at Matakas Jiu-Jitsu in Florence, New Jersey. We've been open for about a year and a half. And the Florence community is amazing. Just wonderful people. We're building a town hall, so to speak, where a lot of our students come just about every day. It's like the after-school program for the kids.
Oh, cool.
The adults are awesome. We got a great instructor team. And it's just a family.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And you're only here a year and a half.
Yes,
That's
sir.
crazy.
Yeah, it's been
And
great.
you're already expanded. And
We expanded once, and we're trying to figure out if that's something we're going to do again, because classes are getting packed, which is a great problem to have.
it's a good problem.
Yeah.
That's a good problem. And only a year and a half. I mean, I feel like with jiu-jitsu too, and the structure that we were taught under, and Ricardo Almeida and the way he does things is, I feel like it's second to none. It's one of the best, if not the best, the whole Renzo Gracie Ricardo Almeida team. You know what I'm saying? It's like the structure that he teaches and the way he speaks to us, and it's real. You know what I'm
He's
saying?
the best teacher I've ever had.
Right.
Forget high school, college. I even audited a few philosophy classes at Princeton University, and professor's a better teacher than any of them.
Right.
He is hands down the best because he took a scientific approach to an art.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he was in Brazil, he studied engineering for a while. And he would have been great at whatever he chose to do.
Right.
But I'm so grateful he chose jiu-jitsu. And
I
then
know.
put a school in South Broad Street for all of us to train. That was minutes from my parents' house. That was the only reason I tried it, was because a buddy recommended it. And I didn't know who Ricardo Almeida was. Didn't really know what jiu-jitsu was. But the best in the world just stopped by our backyard.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Because I've learned so much forget about jiu-jitsu, but as a man,
Yes.
business, the real life story of fighting, you know what I'm saying? What people really, see out there, and he really broke it down, man. And he is the most influential person I know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And he really, I don't know if we tell him enough. You
We
know what
don't.
I'm saying?
don't.
We definitely don't tell him enough, but he's definitely a huge staple in my life.
I mean, he basically shared jiu-jitsu with us, and jiu-jitsu is the lens through which I view all my life now.
Right.
Everything is through that schema, and he gave me that framework.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk a lot about passive income and how that's important, and that's our goal in business. But what about passive influence? Think of how many amazing schools of 300 some students all over New Jersey, and how a dad of 2 trains. Now he's a better relationship with his wife. He's a better relationship with his kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all because Professor came here. And he may never meet those people, but he had a tangible impact on their
Right.
lives. It's incredible.
It's crazy how jiu-jitsu, an art, they call it the gentle art,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
it's something like this is even though this is still growing, believe it or not, it's a
Yeah.
lot of people still don't know about jiu-jitsu. A lot of people still don't know about MMA, but an art form of this nature can expand your knowledge and your vision on so many different aspects of your life.
Yeah.
And people that do jiu-jitsu, you just see that, you can see the way they walk down the street. They walk down the street differently. You know what I'm saying? It's not like karate based to where I know how to do my kata or
And then it stops
respect
there, and that's
or
it.
any.
Yeah.
Once you leave those doors, that's it. Karate's over. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And it's
Completely.
with jiu-jitsu, the foundation is so different. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And we really teach, besides confidence, it's really how to carry yourself. It's really, you're always protected by yourself. You know what I'm saying? With
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu, I know how to handle myself. I can, bring down a situation that's on a level 10, I can bring it down to a level 4 just with jiu-jitsu. Or if I go to my Wall Street job, I can just no care. You know what I'm saying? It's just crazy the way jiu-jitsu has such an impact in so many different outlets with everybody,
And that's the most impactful thing in my life has been the ability to take the lessons from jiu-jitsu and apply them in writing, in my relationships and business, wherever else. Because I think jiu-jitsu is a competence hierarchy, right? And it's one that is so physically, mentally, and emotionally demanding that as you ascend that hierarchy, you cultivate the skills that allow you to ascend all hierarchies. Because it's skill acquisition. And whether it's skill as a DJ or as a fighter or whatever you're getting into, you can learn transdisciplinary skills from jiu-jitsu. The ability to confront what's challenging, to embrace that idea of death and rebirth. Whether in jiu-jitsu you get submitted and you come back stronger, but where else do we so purposely fail every day? And seek failure and put yourselves in positions to always grow. I mean, you guys are amazing at that.
Right.
You, Frankie, Edson, Marlon, you guys would always put yourselves in the worst positions when we would train together with no ego, just because that's where you could grow the most.
Right.
And then if you're doing that on the mat, you're probably going to do that somewhere else. It is the vehicle that allows you to develop all the aspects of yourself because it's so, ubiquitous.
Right.
You have to train every facet of your being because if you don't, you're not going to last. And if your ego's too big, you're not going to keep coming back.
Right.
So it has a really high barrier to entry. I think you have to be a pretty exceptional person to, say, achieve a blue belt. Exceptional in your own way, but you have to push through so much resistance to get there that if you're willing to do that, and once you hit blue belt, and then, as Professor would say, you're ready to learn, that's what it means. Now you're ready to actually get into the art and learn.
Right.
It allows you to cultivate the skills that allow you to learn anything.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, getting ready for a few of my fights. I think I had you just take my back for 6 months.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you would just abuse me and just take my back. And eventually I got it. But it's true. I mean, it's like anything. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
And then when you figure that out and you're cool and you put your ego aside and you leave your, attitude in the car and you open up your mind to what's about to go down and you genuinely want to get better in whatever it is.
Yes.
That's when it starts to come together.
Yes.
That's when it all comes full circle, comes together, and it might not be drastic changes, but just a little bit. Like they always say, you want to get 1% better every day.
Yep.
That's all you need. You need to learn. I always ask people if I have conversations with my mom or my friends, or whatever it is, like, yo, tell me one thing you learned today.
Dude, I love that.
I say that all the time.
Yes.
Like, yo, what's one thing you learned today? Anything. Anything. It could be the different oil they put in your car, or you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care. It could be whatever it is, or how long between the red light and the yellow light. You know what I'm saying? Like little things like that. Like, one thing I just love to learn about new shit. You know what I'm saying? And really like, oh wow. And then I'll figure it out, and then I'll Google it, or try to figure out more information on what they learned.
And to learn from other people's perspectives, because
Right.
we're so limited.
Oh.
Like I am a 32-year-old white male from New Jersey.
Handsome white male.
Handsome.
Handsome.
But so limited in my scope of reality.
Right.
That you're limited to your own experience.
Right.
And the best thing we can do is learn from other people's experiences to inform our own. We were talking a little bit about mythology prior to getting on here. And that's the idea that all the heroes in mythology represent. That, it comes in different forms.
Right.
We're all fighting our own dragon. But there is a dragon to be fought.
Yep.
And it's your job to voluntarily confront that dragon in a way that benefits you and the people around you.
Right.
And we all do that in our own ways, whether in our relationships or on the mat or off it or in business.
Mentally or
right. Everywhere. Yeah, the dragon represents more of, representing your own unconscious, diving into that. And that's the value, is that whether it's jiu-jitsu or whether you're asking your mom what you learned today,
right,
is we can only fight so many dragons in our lives, but everyone's fighting them. So if I can learn from your experiences to better inform mine the next time a dragon like yours pops up in my life, that's the value.
That's
learn
true.
From each other.
Learn from each other, and I'm a big person on figuring out things on my own and not bringing not so much my troubles, but like issues or whatever on other people. Like I'm not one to big on like asking for advice or anything like that. I'm like, I'll figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, in these last few weeks, I had a few things going on in my world where, you know, career changes and just a couple of new outlets opening up to me. And actually, I call my best friend. I don't think I've ever done this with him. And I was like, yo, tell me your insight on this. Like, what do you think I should do? And, you know, and it really like, I was, you know, on the toilet getting ready to take a shower. You know what I'm saying? And I just literally, my legs fell asleep because we were talking for like 45 minutes because he was just breaking down the different situations that could happen if you go to A and not B, or B and then C. And I was like, man, that's like, that helped me so much.
Yes.
Where it would have took me 2 days to figure this out, or in spite of everything, I would have just made a decision and I would have just went with it and maybe later on regretted it, or it might have been the best decision. But hearing from one of my best friends on his perspective on my situation really helped me hone in on my dragon and really like, you know, I was able to like kill that one. All right, that dragon's out of my life. Like I know where I need to go now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because you're not the first person to experience that.
Right.
Realistically, you know, I'm so grateful. A lot of my close friends are 10 years older than me, 15 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
So anything I'm about to experience, they probably already have.
Right.
Certainly in this world of opening up a martial arts school, I've had so many great mentors like Pete McHugh.
Right.
You know, he's a cool combination of a peer and mentor. Because any problem we're about to face, he's already gone through.
Right.
So I text that dude like multiple times a week, just random questions about it. And why would I want to reinvent the wheel? You know, I don't want to waste, even if it's a couple hours, I could put those couple hours somewhere else. If Pete already solved that problem, I don't need to do the arithmetic.
Right.
Pete, what's the answer? And I'll stand on that foundation and try to go for a little bit more. But you only have so much time. You know, you want to use it as efficiently as possible. And if I can save myself from making mistakes, or I can just trust someone close to me who's strong where I'm weak and accept that if I make a mistake through their advice, it's a better mistake than I would have made on my own.
Right.
That's enough.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it. You know, especially in this world, like, you know, now we're at that stage in our life where everybody's making that next jump.
Oh, yeah.
The next big jump.
Kids,
you know what I mean?
marriages,
Kids,
houses.
marriages, schools, you know, and it's cool. It's cool because we were all kids when we started training together, and now time flies, man. Time's a killer. Time's a killer. You know, time is a killer. You were fighting New Breed down in Atlantic City.
Yep. Yeah.
And we were killing each other on South Broad Street. You know, you had a couple of your fights, and you were competing in jiu-jitsu as well. And 10 years down the road, you got your chick, you got your dog, and you have your school, and it's like so real.
Dude,
you know,
so far into the experience 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was just, I'm going to do jiu-jitsu 10 hours today.
Right.
And that's it.
Right.
You
And
know?
that's it. It's crazy. It's an awesome life that we live, man. I mean, this is like.
And bro, I think we had to do it this way. Like Nietzsche had this idea that before you could be free, you had to be a slave to something.
Right. Yes.
And we chose to be a slave to martial arts.
Yes.
For a very long time, a decade, where you funnel yourself into this very specific mode of being. But when you ascend that competence hierarchy and you cultivate transdisciplinary skills, you come out the other side. And now look at you. You have your hands in everything.
Right.
You have so many more options having been a slave to one thing for a while and
Right.
learn those skills.
Well, I think too, like we choose it, right? We choose to start it and be involved. But I feel like as you get deeper and more knowledgeable on what's going on, it chooses you eventually. And
Feels
then
like
you're
it, right?
stuck.
Yeah.
And then you're in it.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like you don't see anything else. You know what I'm saying? And that's like a great feeling to have. It's like you kind of like feel a home and a meaning to why we're living. You know what I'm saying? And why we're doing things. You know what I'm saying? Because like anybody can get caught up in their life and do the same thing every day.
Yeah.
But does that same thing make you happy? Like, are you supposed to be doing that same thing?
Yeah.
Or are you supposed to be on a jiu-jitsu mat? Are you supposed to be in a church? Are you supposed to be, you know, on Wall Street or a teacher? You know what I'm saying? Like,
dude, completely. You brought up meaning. And
Right.
I've spent a lot of time in the last couple months learning about meaning. Are you familiar with Jordan Peterson at all?
yeah.
That's my guy.
Right.
I've studied everything he's ever done. And he has this idea that you can use meaning to orient yourself in your life. Because Carl Jung, who's one of the greatest minds that ever lived as far as understanding the human experience, he's where archetypes come from. He saw that human beings enact the same patterns over and over. And throughout all of mythology, they keep popping up. And he has this archetype of the self, which is what you would be if you sorted yourself out completely. if you balance the pie chart of your life in just the right way, and if you fully actualized all those subcomponents of who you are, and the idea is that that self exists in the future, and it beckons you forward by making things meaningful.
Right.
And that's a powerful idea, that when you get that feeling in your gut that this is where I'm supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
right, in that phase of proximal development where it's a little hard, but you have one foot in order and one in chaos, you're in that exact right spot where you're challenged, but not too challenged.
Right.
And that you can use meaning to guide you toward whatever Frankie Perez is supposed to become. And that you could say your conscious is, like, from a Freudian perspective, your superego, right? It's your culture's values. But I think a big part of your conscious is that self pulling you forward.
Right.
Like, the best Frankie that could ever Frankie is in the future, telling you what to do by making things meaningful today.
Yeah.
That's a powerful idea, and I think it's true.
Do you think everybody has their own route already planned out?
Bro,
You know?
I feel like we all come with our natural proclivities and skill sets where we are all capable of success in a few environments. And if you're fortunate enough to find that environment that expresses what you are and what you most could be, yeah, like you're obviously finding it with being under the lights.
Mm-hmm.
That's your thing. That's where you thrive. That's where you find meaning. So I guess you could say that you came into the world looking for the lights and you found it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit off air, guys, about some stuff, and I was telling about an experience under, being under the lights and feeling this certain wave of energy that this went through me, and not to get like a little crazy with
Go
you
for it.
there, you
Right
know what
on.
I'm saying? But this energy of meaning, and then stem right back to meaning on what I wanted to do in my life and what I felt. And I didn't know which direction to go in with it, but the way this light hit me, I understood that I needed to be there, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
And sometimes I think about life, man, and when I get into podcasts, because it's really, sometimes it's getting on somebody with with the same wavelength and really like being open-minded and free-spirited and understanding life a little bit more than just the generic A and B,
Yeah.
And I do feel that in this earth, in this world that we live in, because some people might not even think the earth is real, everybody has their routes, and everybody lives their life. And during these routes, there's certain pit stops that you're supposed to take.
Yeah.
And depending on whether you go left or right is going to open up a new route, right?
Completely.
And whether I go right and make the decision of opening up a business, all right, that route's going to take you. You're going to be successful, whatever. Somewhere down the line, your place is going to burn down, and you're going to figure out a new way and a new outlet. Or I could have went left, and hey, you can work at your 9 to 5, and then in 13 or 14 years, you're going to hit the lottery and, be a multimillionaire. Like, I feel like everybody has their routes already figured out, but it's all based on decisions
Yeah.
at specific moments in their life that stem them to a whole new route that's going to take them to maybe success, maybe a basic lifestyle, which is completely fine, or maybe down a really bad path. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So the question is then, how do you know you're making the right decision?
Exactly.
What do you use? What is your metric for making those decisions?
You know what? I used to be a really big overthinker.
Yeah.
I used to be a real big overthinker, but I think I'm always thinking about 4 steps ahead of anything that I do, whether I'm DJing or, jiu-jitsu or fighting or just life, period. And I break down on where the stability is.
Okay.
I break down where the stability is and where's the bigger picture in a decision.
Yes.
So like now, not to get too deep into it, but like now I'm in a new business venture, and I'm taking a whole new career change. I'm still going to be in the entertainment industry, but now I'm getting to the point in my career where I'm a hot commodity, like people want to work with me.
Yeah.
So, I don't know the specific direction I want to go in when it comes to this entertainment industry. I know there's 3 different outlets that I want to go. It's either, start talking on a TV show,
Yep.
I'm going to stay being an entertainer because I love it, or I'm going to take fighting to the whole next level. You know what I mean? In those 3 realms there, it's what I'm going to do. It's just figuring out stability. And, I've been approached by a few people in this that are very high up in this entertainment industry, that they're looking for their best interest for their company. But I don't know if it's the best interest for me.
Bro, completely.
And when it comes to that venture of trying to figure out which way I want to go, when people come to me that want to work with me and kind of wave money in front of my face
Yes.
and try to like almost buy me,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not a fan of that.
No.
And, you know, it's happened in the past and I'm sure it's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
But I think when you decide to make a decision, you'll feel it in your stomach. You'll feel that
Sense of
genuine,
meaning.
that sense of meaning, and you'll understand like, this is what I want. Because listen, I stopped caring about money a long time ago.
Mhm.
And people are like, what the hell? What do you mean? Yeah, obviously you need money. Money makes the world work.
Pragmatically, you need to
Right.
function. Yeah.
But I don't need to make $1 million in a week if I can do something in 20 years and we can make, $100 million.
Yeah.
But we can make that $100 million and make a difference.
Dude, that's it.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think money is a function of the value you provide to people.
Right.
You'll be compensated for. And we're in this cool place now where all of our personal development is directly tied to our future bank account.
Mhm.
Because the more you become, the more you're going to be able to give, and the more you'll receive for giving. So now it's that sweet spot of I'm going to maximize personal development, and that's what's going to feed my family.
Right.
That's the difference between, say, going your own route and going the route that someone else lays out for you.
Mm-hmm.
Neil Gaiman is a really good writer, and he gave an amazing commencement address called Make Good Art, and he defined his future as a mountain. And whenever one of those decisions popped up, he said, he would ask himself, is this taking me towards or away from my mountain? And he would turn down good paying jobs because it wasn't in line with what he was supposed to do. And I think if you always orient yourself by meaning toward that mountain, you'll become someone capable of providing massive value.
Right.
And then you'll be compensated for that value.
Right. Absolutely.
I think it's too easy to be short-sighted and focus on the rent this month,
Right.
which is very important,
Absolutely.
but you can't do it at the sacrifice of your soul.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've been in positions where like I've sat down with people and straight up told them like, I don't think I'm the guy for you. You know what I'm saying? I just don't think, and I don't want to take your, it's not even a money thing. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I'm at in my career, to where I know what I want. I know how I can adjust for specific situations and events, but sometimes it just doesn't work. And I'd rather help somebody find someone else that is going to work and make their night as memorable as possible and whatnot, and really have that experience the right way.
Yes.
Instead of bullshitting them and saying I can provide this and not be 100% in it because I know they're not my couple. You know what I'm saying?
Completely.
It's just like and that's where this world is goes. There's a lot of bullshit out there, and then real recognizes real. You know what I'm saying? Like you and I have always seen eye to eye and just always understood each other for whatever reason. It just when
worked.
people click, they click.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's where we stem to too, is really understanding what, as an individual, what we want. And what we want. And it's cool to be selfish. Be a little selfish.
We're all inherently selfish.
Yeah.
And I realize that now because I've been with my fiance Amber for about 2 years, and this is my first meaningful relationship. And I think by nature I'm a very self-centered person. I think we all are, but I think anyone who tries to do anything at a really high level, you kind of have to be selfish and self-centered. And being with her and finally caring about someone more than myself, moving that assemblage point beyond the confine of your own skin, where it's somewhere in between you two, that's highlighted to me how much time I spent thinking about myself prior to her. And to the degree that I focus on other people and genuinely focus on them, I suffer less. Dude, when it's just you and you're thinking only about your stuff, that's what the most painful times in my life.
Right.
But now when I focus on Amber and the community we're building here and serving our students.
And the dog.
And little Huxley. Everything gets better.
Right.
All of your suffering stems from thinking about yourself.
Right.
It's like the complete existential Band-Aid. It's freedom from all that angst.
Right.
Just to genuinely care about other people and to put their well-being first.
Isn't it crazy how strong the brain is, dude?
But it's a survival mechanism.
Right.
Because when we were living in caves, if people didn't like you, you weren't getting food. They weren't protecting you when a wandering tribe came or the wolf came.
Right.
And you want to ascend that hierarchy to get the best place to sleep and the best food and the best mate. Like, that's in our biology.
Right.
But we're kind of past that point. Not completely. We're still in a state of nature, but now it's businesses in a state of nature.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of that ego is kind of getting in the way now. You know, we don't need it anymore. We still have that hardware, but we need new software.
Right. So, Amber, correct?
Yep.
So you guys met on the mat.
Yes, I taught a class at Professor Steve Bongiorno's,
Okay.
and I met her there, and it was the best class I ever taught. It's like the love of my life. Our first date was mountain biking through Wharton State Forest, and dude, this was cool. So we met there around like 12 o'clock, hopped on our bikes and just rode. We went up to a fire tower, had lunch up there. You can see like the AC skyline. And we rode back and we put a hammock up and we just laid in the hammock and talked, you know. And then hours passed.
One hammock?
On a hammock.
Oh,
hammock.
okay. All right.
And the sun set and we were lost in the middle of Wharton State Forest. So I've always wanted to ride my bike in the woods by starlight, and I finally had to. So her and I ended up riding about like close to 30 miles, finding our way back. Yeah, the whole time, like her phone's dead, so she can't text her family who are wondering where she's at. So it was super stressful. I'm thinking like, we just had the best first date ever. Did I mess this up by getting lost in the woods? And and dude, it was funny. So we finally made it back and hit it off. And on the ride home, I called one of my best friends who I used to live with in Bordentown when we were training together at Broad Street. And I remember when he came home one day, it was a Friday, and he said, dude, I interviewed the woman I'm going to marry today. And then years later, I called him on the ride home, was like, dude, I met the girl I'm going to marry today.
That's
just
crazy.
Knew from the first date.
That's crazy.
She's just, you know, she's the best heart, so loving, so kind. And I think that's the thing I love most about her is how genuinely loving and service-based she is.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. So what was it about her that just clicked? Was it everything? Was it,
dude, it was
one
everything.
specific thing that just clicked?
We connected through Facebook from after that seminar,
Uh-huh.
and she was reading like the same books I was. Like I was going through a big C.S. Lewis phase, and I had never met a woman who had read C.S. Lewis before, and she was putting up quotes about it, and I was like, all right, she's different. You know, I'm very attracted to her. We're reading the same things. And then she, I think, brought up mountain biking, that she had a bike that she didn't get to take out. So I was just like, all right, that's what we're doing. And then our second date was hiking again through another park and reading and hammocking and going for a run together through the woods. And it was just easy in all the ways it's never been easy before.
Right.
She was the perfect counterpart, and she's an amazing teammate.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is she white belt?
Blue belt.
Oh, blue belt.
Yeah,
okay, so now she's
really
learning.
Cool. So she was a 3-stripe white belt under Bongiorno, and then she came here, so I was able to award her her 4th stripe, her blue belt. Her family came. It was really special. And the kids love her. She's behind the desk a lot now, but she gets on the mat when she can, and you know she's a big part of the community.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love hearing love stories like that, like genuine love stories, because like what I send to a lot of my clients is in the entertainment industry is like, you know, I'm not your cookie cutter MC. This isn't your cookie cutter business to where I have a generic spiel. We found true love. The lover's in love. Like all these like bullshit kind of one-liners that all these guys use just to use, and they're very different and special.
Yes.
Listen, when it comes to this entertainment world, I am no different equipment-wise. We all have speakers. We all have TVs. We all have sparklers, lighting, all that crazy stuff. I can set it up however 5 million different ways you want.
Yeah.
But what I can promise being different is the guy behind the mic.
Yes.
And what I can promise being one of a kind is your love story is one of a kind.
Right.
Nobody else has that.
Yeah.
It's between you two.
Yeah.
Your first date is between you two. That's your love story that nobody else in this planet has.
Yep.
You know, that's as organic as I can get, is bringing your love story out the night of your wedding. And when I hear like love story, I love it. As cliche as it sounds, like love stories, it is. It's a love story, man.
Amazing.
You knew it right off the bat, which
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah.
And I've heard the most wildest stories in my life. You can imagine being in this game 10 years, you know?
Yeah.
But when I hear like cool, unique, different things like that, like going on a mountain bike, you know, meeting on the mats at jiu-jitsu, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it doesn't happen all the time. You know what I mean?
And dude, how about this? So how I proposed to her, we got Brian Wills owns Empire Pizza down the road. He's the man. He's, I think, 60, 61, still training a couple times a week, you know, gets after it. Very inspiring dude. He has a condo up at Mount Snow in Vermont, and he let us borrow it in September of last year, whenever it was. And I had 2 torn pecs, and we hiked to the top of the mountain. We left like 4:30 in the morning, and we climbed to the top, got on Mount Snow right as the sun came up. We're the only ones up there, and I proposed to her right there.
Right.
She loves nature maybe even more than I do.
Wow.
And to get to do that on top of a mountain at sunrise when it was just us, it was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Just you two out there, man.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Right?
And you're getting married this year?
Yes.
September, baby?
September 21st.
Ooh,
Yeah.
you ready for that?
I am.
Are you a dancer?
No.
No.
She is. We actually went to a wedding this weekend, and she did most of the dancing. She kind of pulls me along.
All right.
She's definitely the leader in that regard.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. You fight your own battles.
That's
you know?
right. That's right. Absolutely.
It's the mini battle. That's awesome. So we got a little deep there, but now you guys read books. If you guys didn't hear at the beginning of this podcast, Christopher is a author of 7 books now.
Yes, sir.
I remember your first one. I still have your first one on my coffee table.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, and your second one actually. Yep,
Very cool.
on my coffee table. Yeah. So, what made you start writing? Like, where did you get into that whole writing realm of things?
Writing for me has always been a form of thinking. I feel like it's how I organize my thoughts.
Yeah, journals growing up and stuff.
Not until after college. Dude, everything happened after college.
Really?
After college, I took my first jiu-jitsu class. I started reading, like really intently reading. And I feel like that's when I really became a student, and I would always write. I remember I would come home from jiu-jitsu and I was working through some things, trying to figure stuff out. I'd open up a blank Word document. I'd turn off all the lights and I would just write for hours and just let everything come out and try to work through it and try to understand who I was. And
Write about what? Anything?
everything. I guess at 22 it was a lot of like existential frustration. Like, where's the meaning? Like we were talking about. I couldn't find the meaning, and jiu-jitsu helped me find that. And then now it's become a form of organization for what is my current perspective. What is jiu-jitsu to me? I wrote on jiu-jitsu, which has been by far the most read book, and it has very little to do with jiu-jitsu. It's about what this is and how this is a vehicle for acquiring virtue and removing vice. But there's no UPAs or arm bars or anything in that book. But I wrote that book because I decided that I wanted to teach jiu-jitsu for a living. And I had to have a really good argument why. Like for myself. Why am I going to devote my life to this? Why is this worthwhile? So that was, I don't know, 120-page like dissertation on why jiu-jitsu is a worthy use of the rest of my life. And I had to go through that whole meandering, pursuit. So it continues to be that. Like right now, the most recent book that I just finished, I don't know exactly what the title is yet. I think it's going to be called Hero. It's about how the path of the archetypal hero through mythology is the best path forward in jiu-jitsu for skill acquisition. About, confronting the dragon, embracing death and rebirth. So basically it's pay attention. You have to know where you want to go. You have to know where the problems are. You have to know where your guard passing is weak. You have to know where you're weak on bottom. And then having honestly assessed yourself and admitting that I'm weak here, then you confront that dragon. Then you put yourself in that arena and you allow yourself to die and fail over and over so that you can be reborn. And that's a powerful idea, that you have to die before you can be reborn. You have to tear your ACL before you move on to other ventures.
Right.
It's the only way. Something has to cause that change. And it's usually a painful transition to get to a more beautiful place.
Right.
And that's what jiu-jitsu is, because we constantly stand on the foundation of the thing we just learned. We pursue a new goal. We fail on the way to that goal. We become something better and revivified because of that pursuit. And we stand on that new foundation. And that constant, and that's what all of the mythology and humanities have been trying to teach us, is that you need to voluntarily confront the thing that's hard and do it in a way that serves you and the people around you. And that is a perfect schema for jiu-jitsu, for skill acquisition. And if you do it on the mat, hopefully you can do it in life too.
Yeah. That's wild, man. So 7, huh?
Yeah, 7. Yep.
That's crazy. And I love the way like you always bring it back to jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? Especially like that. I can't wait. When does that one drop?
Next month.
Next month.
Sometime next month.
Where can they find these books?
Amazon. They're all on Amazon. I've got one on Audible now. On Jiu-Jitsu is on Audible. 5 Rules for White Belts will be on Audible in the next week. Eventually they'll all get there. But right now it's all on Amazon.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's dope. How long does it take you to like write a book, depending?
This one was about 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah. So right now I have something I need to figure out, and I write a lot of outlines, and then I just write day after day, like 5,000 words, 7,000 words, until I have nothing left to say. And then I go back through all the wreckage and try to figure out what is it I'm trying to say. And that's the worst part, dude. I hate editing. I'm sure you do too with all this stuff.
Yeah.
Painstaking.
Yeah.
But when you, siphon through all that stuff, you find what it is you were trying to say. And then you turn that into a well-constructed argument. And as I'm doing that, I'm organizing my own psyche. That's how I sort of reinterpret my relationship to experience by getting it on paper and figuring out where I'm at. And then each book, you could say, is almost like a 100-page journal entry.
Wow.
And the only reason why I do it is because it seems to genuinely help other people. I do it for me. I wouldn't even publish it if people weren't going to read it. But it seems like in my process of trying to figure these things out, a lot of other people are asking the same questions, and it seems to help other people. Like I probably get a message a day from someone I've never met who says, I was going to quit jiu-jitsu, but I read this book and I kept going, so thank you. And dude, that means now they're a better husband, father, mother, wife. I mean, that's special. So that's why I write, to learn and then to hopefully serve.
Yeah, I mean, you write in these books and you obviously, enjoy it.
Yeah.
You like it. I'm sure the whole process stemming up to finishing a book, is crazy. You put 2 months of hard work into it, editing, going crazy. I'm sure there was days that were like clusterfucks that you just wanted to slam your head through a wall.
Yeah.
But then you get it out, and then you have, reviews like that are impacting people in a completely different way that you didn't even expect, and it's like, word, it was all worth it.
Exactly.
It was all worth it. That's really, really cool.
I got a cool message today from one of our students who just sent me a picture of his screen in his car, and he was listening to On Jiu-Jitsu on Audible on his way to work. Like, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Bro, I love that, and once in a while I get people listening to the podcast and they'll send me like a picture of them on their, on their radio. Same thing, man. And they're like, there's a couple people that I've had on here that are like you, super open-minded, very well-read, very well-spoken, and they relate to a lot of the things. And, they've told me, a couple of the people that I've had on in the past, I've had reviews of people like, dude, I can relate so much to that. Thank you so much. This X, Y, and Z helped me out so much to where now I have a whole different outlet on my relationship, or now I knew what I was missing. Now I knew, how to go about talking about that certain situation. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like at home, it's like, it hits you. It's like, you don't need much. That's what I'm saying. Like, money can't buy that.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, money can't buy that shit. Like that's real.
Yep.
That's organic. That just happened naturally.
Yes.
And that's what I love about it. And when I get, like today, I woke up and I had a long email from my client this past weekend, and it was just how ecstatic that they were. And
dude, that's amazing.
They couldn't believe how perfect the event was. And they really, when I deal with a lot of these mitzvah kids, we're either going two ways. You're either getting that super cool, fun, outspoken kid that just knows what a mitzvah is about and just wants to go out there and have genuinely a good time to whatever music. Yeah. And then you have these kids who either are, autistic or super shy, just not about the spotlight at all, and just quiet kids, which is fine. Yeah. And I'm the guy that has to adapt and make sure that these kids feel just like these kids.
Because it's their day.
And it's their day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I bring that together, and my man that I had this weekend was an absolutely awesome kid. He was an old soul. He was like a 60-year-old man stuck in a 13-year-old body. Like, knew all about 50s and 60s, 70s, 80s music. Like, knew their albums, he just loved music. Saxophone player. He was kind of quiet when I first met him. Dude, if you would have saw this kid Saturday night, was out of his mind, just dancing, having fun. He's like, I've never sweat so much in my life. You know what I mean? Like, that's I would touch the back of his suit and it was soaked. And, it was just like, that's what I live for, And even his little brother, like, they booked me about a year and a half ago. His little brother, I probably got 6 words out of him. Okay. In that year and a half. He was just super quiet, always in the other room, just minding his own business. Dude, this guy was like riding horses and doing the worm on the dance floor. And I'm like, damn, dude, like. And
you created that environment.
I created that environment with my team, obviously. Yeah, I had a great staff behind me. The venue was awesome. But it's those little things in life to where I get that email and I'm like, wow, like, these people are going to remember me for the rest of their life. That kid's going to remember me for the rest of his life. He's going to remember his mitzvah, and he might not remember my name, he might not remember whatever, but he'll remember that experience. Feeling. That feeling like, fuck, I was the man. You know what I'm saying? Like got out of his, and something I do to a lot of my parties is, like, before it gets crazy, I shut all the music off. And I go, yo, look around this room. look at all these people that are here celebrating with you. You know, and I do it on
Yeah.
my weddings. I do it at CBC. Look at all these people, because I think that's sometimes we have to stop life and stop time for a second and really take it all in and embrace it and be like, wow, you know, as a 13-year-old kid, probably doesn't mean much to him that all these people, he doesn't get the big picture, and he will in life. He'll understand that what really went down there, you know, but creating that environment with words and music and having that review come back in, and that they want to bring in their next kid to, you know, it's kind of crazy, and it's awesome to be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. It's the same thing with you on the mats. It's like you come in, you have your whole structure, and this is what we're going to do. And, you know, at the end of the class is that new kid learned that new move and he hit it doing live training. It's like, fuck, like I did that. You know what I'm saying? Or
I think the most important thing we do is create an environment where people feel loved and supported and can be themselves.
right.
I think at the end of the day, I love jiu-jitsu. I've devoted my life to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've really devoted my life to people. And we are getting really good. Like, we did a team tournament. We did the UGA, and the team took first place. Everyone's crushing it. But I never talk about winning. I talk about who are you becoming. That's what matters. And if we pursue that, the winning will take care of itself. If you practice this art sincerely, with effort and attention, and you allow yourself to fail, you'll grow. And you do it enough, you'll get really good.
Right.
But it's the environment where people come in, because the secular world doesn't offer a lot of fellowship. It really doesn't. Most people are on an island by themselves. They're stressed out. They don't have someone to talk to. Maybe they come home and there's more stress, but this is like a safe haven where they come in, they feel loved. It's their time. And I always tell them, like, you know, you're bowing onto the mat, not to me or not to the people that came before us, but you're bowing to yourself, because this is my time to reassess and to grow. And on the blue mat, there's no mortgage. There's no fighting with your significant other. This is your time. And that's what we've done. We've created a place. That's what you do. You create an environment for people to feel and experience love. And that is the most important thing we can do.
Isn't that crazy?
It's amazing. What an opportunity to get to do it.
Yeah. And who would have thought, like, you know, we were 10 years ago, we would have never thought this way.
Never.
We were just in the moment.
Never. I wanted a nighttime security job so I could just read books and do jiu-jitsu and do nothing else. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that wasn't my path.
Right.
It's funny how you're, like, I remember there's a saying, it's like, when I was 22, my dad knew nothing about the world. And then now at 30, I realized how smart he was. You know, like, so much has changed about the way we view the world in the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
From that 22-year-old athlete where nothing mattered but skill acquisition.
Right.
To now we see it's a much bigger picture.
Well, they say, like, the brain doesn't fully develop until you're 25, right?
No.
And then your
You're
vision.
getting hit in the head, though.
Yeah, I was getting hit in the head, so it's probably just about there. It's probably finally getting there. It was buffering for a little while,
Right.
But and then I was talking to somebody the other yesterday actually, and I was talking to her about first time I ever had a conversation with this woman, and we knew each other through passing, we knew each other through a mutual friend, but like I was so into the conversation, I sat in my van, turned off at my house for probably another like 40 minutes.
Good for you.
Because it was like, I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of her mouth.
What words?
It was just about, you know, the way she looks at life is the same way I look at life, and the same way you look at life. It's an open book.
Yeah.
You know, you create your own chapters, you create your own visions, you create your own outcomes. And she was like, Frank, when I turned 30 is when life took a whole whirlwind, and then I really started learning about life.
Yeah.
Then I really understood about life. And I forget what she's like 35 or 36. And she's like, Frank, these last 5 years have been the best years of my life.
That's amazing.
You know, until you think you know what you're doing at such a young age, at 21, 22, you're so I got this shit. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to be a gazillionaire by the time I'm 26 and whatever. We don't know shit, dude. We don't know a fucking thing. You know what I mean?
And it gets worse. There's an awesome idea that consider your knowledge as an island, and as the knowledge grows, so does the shoreline of ignorance.
Right.
It's like the more you learn, the more access you have to all the things you don't know.
Right.
Jiu-jitsu's like that. We've seen that.
Yeah.
And there are moments throughout the years where we've been like, yeah, I'm pretty good. I got it. And you don't have it.
No.
I remember one day I asked Professor Almeida, we were driving to Newtown. We were going to go paint the school, the first Newtown building. And I asked him, like, do you think you're good at jiu-jitsu? And I prefaced it with, I'm doing pretty well, and I still feel like I'm awful. And he, Professor Almeida, right, in his peak says, if you think you understand it, you lost it. And hearing that from him, a guy
Right.
who has seen more jiu-jitsu than any of us ever will,
Right.
for him to say, like, yeah, you can't know it. It's infinite. That was a powerful idea.
It's crazy. That's strong words.
And it took for me at least, it took being a black belt in jiu-jitsu to realize I'm a white belt everywhere else.
Right.
Everywhere.
And it's so true, man. And I'll use an example as far as like my last 2 fights. For me, in order to get the full package in a fight, I need to be scared.
Yeah.
And I have to have that question in the back of my mind. Like, am I ready for this? Am I?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I go out there, it's just everything kind of comes together. The fights that I've lost is because I was overconfident.
Okay.
And I wasn't scared. I didn't respect my opponent. I knew I was better than him. I was like, I'm just gonna go through the motions.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, fuck, like this guy could take me down. Oh, I got the best takedown defense.
Yeah.
Boom, and I get taken down 10 times that fight. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like, that's so true, man. It's when you think you know it all, you don't know shit. And
Tell me about the Sam Stout fight. I was so proud of you.
Sam, bro, to be honest, that shit never hit me.
No?
I swear to God. It hit me I think for that moment,
Mm-hmm.
but I envisioned that happening 6 years before it did.
Cool.
I remember before I even came to the team, I said, I'm gonna fight Sam Stout. Like, it's gonna happen, and I'm gonna retire. I swear to God.
That's
People think it's crazy, but it was right after I did the Sean Tompkins seminar before he passed away, and I was sitting in my gym, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to have a long career in MMA. I think I'm just gonna do, get my first big win and fight and retire right after that. Somebody says something like, you're crazy. I'm like, yeah, you're crazy. I'm probably gonna be a champ or something. You know what I mean? But I said that shit, man. And I always said I wanted to fight Sam Stout.
Yeah. Look at that.
So I can't believe it happened all in one night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that shit, I envisioned that for 8-10 weeks of, hitting them and dropping them and knocking them down. Like, I wasn't losing. I wasn't losing that fight. I was so calm. It felt right because I was out there with just my team and nobody knew me.
Where was the fight?
Canada, Saskatoon, Canada.
Cool.
And nobody knew me, dude. But like, a lot of things that were happening that week were like, it just felt right. Like, every fight I ever had, I've always run into my opponents in the lobby. It was just something, and it was like an awkward check-in. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, first thing, we get off the plane, boom, run into Sam right in the lobby. And I look at him, he looks at me, we go check in, we're cool, I got that serious mean mug face, you know what I mean? Then I go check in my hotel, and 0511 was my hotel number. I remember that because that's my birthday.
Dude. That's
and
awesome.
we were in this hotel that was in the middle of nowhere. There was nothing going on. Walmart was 45-minute shuttle. And it was me and my dad for, the first couple of days. And then Nick Catone came in. And then Ricardo and Mark. Did Ricardo and Mark? No, I don't think Ricardo made it to that one. Yeah, I don't think Ricardo made it to that one. He had something going on here. He couldn't make it. And it was Mark Henry, Nick, and my dad. And it was just us that week, and everything just felt right. I had kind of a tough weight cut. But at that weight cut, man, I was like, I'm done doing this shit.
Yeah.
I'm done. I called my mom. I called I told everybody but my dad. Because my dad's like kind of like a head case and like worries a lot when it comes to this fight. And he acts like he doesn't get nervous, but he gets nervous,
I remember he would be on the mat when you'd be sparring 10 years ago.
Yeah. My first spar at Ricardo's was Steve Bongiorno.
Look at that.
Steve Bongiorno was and Ricardo grabbed me aside. He's like, you know who that is? I'm like, no. So that's a black belt. That's Steve Bongiorno. I'm like, oh, no shit. Cool. He's awesome. Nice dude, So we go about the whole week, and for something, it just felt right, man. My warm-up felt right. And I knew, maybe it was because I knew it was my last one at that specific moment. And I saw him shadow boxing right before we went out, and I'm like, just not going to happen today for you, bud. You know, I just knew it.
Yeah.
And I walked out. Usually I run. I walked out to the cage. I got in, and I just pulled the trigger. You know, I pulled the trigger, and it felt right, and I dropped him. And I just saw, like, as I'm ground and pounding him, people are like, yo, you're so accurate. Now, I just saw his chin. And no matter what I did with my hands, it was, like, magnetized to his jaw. You know, like, no matter. I could have went punch straight up in the air. It just, it revert and just magnetized to his chin.
Yeah.
And it just felt right. And the second he hit me with my first jab, I was like, we're good.
Yeah.
You know, we're good. I'm fine. And that feeling afterwards was like, fuck, I did it.
You just manifested destiny.
I just fucking did it.
Yeah.
You know, and I was pumped up. And then afterwards, it was like somebody took a fire extinguisher and put my fire out. And I was like, I'm good here.
Wow. Good for you.
You know, I'm good here.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of things that stemmed up to it. I was going through a lot of family stuff. You know, I had a couple of deaths in the family. And, you know, people don't understand when it comes to this MMA stuff is, of course, we go through a lot of shit. We train 3 times a day, 2 times a day, whatever it is. And, you know, we're cutting weight. We're going, on top of all that, we're living our lives.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So whatever it is, if you have kids, you got to worry about your kids going to school, whatever. If your wife, you have to make sure she's happy, make sure she's getting laid, making sure there's money in the bank, making sure that she's not just taking care of the kids, it's you too. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot. Or even if you're single, there's still a lot. You got to pay rent. You got to make sure there's money in the bank. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot that goes into being a professional in whatever facet it is.
Yes.
Okay? And I sacrificed a lot from 17 to when I retired in 2015. And my family had to deal with that.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault, you know, and that's something that I was like, fuck this sport for a while. You know, I was like, I'm going to do, and I'm not going to say my life was rough in that time. I loved my life there. You know, I was partying, I was DJing, I was going on vacations, you know, money was coming in and I was living that life, but it was never enough.
Dude, it's a hard balance of achievement and fulfillment.
Right.
Still trying to figure that out.
Still. And we'll always still try to, because once we figure it out for that specific moment,
Exactly. Yeah.
you know, 5 years down the line, it's going to be a whole new way of trying to fulfill yourself again, you know?
Yeah.
And when it all came full circle for me was when the death of my grandfather is really when it hit home.
Yeah.
You know, and I've spoken about this on the podcast before, but when you see an individual that you've looked up to your whole life, is strong, hustler, you know, always had money in his pocket, no one could ever get over on him, smart, genuine man that everybody loved, fizzle away to nothing from a disease, you know? And you think about all the shitty people in the world that are healthy, that are normal, that live normal lives, but they're just shitty people. You know, rapists, murderers, burglars, pedophiles, whatever it is. And they live their whole life in jail, whatever. But then you have genuine people. I'm not just saying my grandfather, but just good people all around that run into these things. It's like, what are we doing this for?
Bro,
if I can't enjoy my family, if I can't spend my last few days with my grandfather, which I did. My grandmother passed away a month later out of nowhere on like a Tuesday. And I saw her last breaths. I said, what are we doing this for?
Yeah.
All that time I was training, all that time I was away, all that, I could have been spending time with them. And now you can't look back at it like that because you'll kill yourself. You'll beat yourself up forever. But at that specific moment after I knocked out Sam Stout and I told my dad I'm done and I told Mark and they all thought I was crazy and they didn't believe that I was going to do it.
Yeah.
That's when it felt right.
Good for you.
That's when I was like, wow, like this is it. All these years stem to this specific moment right here. Yeah. And I'm okay with it.
Dude, that's a spot to get to.
You know?
When you fully embrace and accept your path.
Right.
And where you're at right now.
Now the problem is a year later.
And you want to fight again.
And you want to fight again. Well, I think it stems to not being in the spotlight anymore.
Yeah.
Not being the guy. Not being what everybody's talking about. Not being in articles. Just falling into normal society again.
Yeah.
Can you cope with that? That is the question.
Yeah.
Because that puts a lot of weight on your shoulders, believe it or not. That puts a lot of weight on your brain. And being in the spotlight for so long, and this is just, I'm small time. You talk about professional athletes in the NBA. Michael Jordan.
Yeah, right.
Perfect example. Came back after he got done retired, Should have never done it, but he did. Why? Because he has a love for it. He's meant to play basketball.
Yeah.
Was his head in it fully? Maybe not. But I think being out of the spotlight for so long, they want to have that feeling again. They want to be the guy, the man. And I think that's hard to deal with as a person. That's harder to deal with that than being in the spotlight.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
It
depends what drives you. I think if you're going to do anything at a really high level, in a very simple way, you're probably either driven by love or by shame. And bro, so we talked a little bit before we came on air. I tore both my pecs recently, and that was hell, man, absolute hell. And if I'm honest with myself, how I got to that point was because I always entered every workout, every training session with a sense like I was not enough as I was. And if I worked really hard and I got a little bit better, I'd be more worthy of being. And I didn't know that at the time. I didn't realize that's what I was doing. But I walked around with that tacit sense of I am not enough. But if I achieve these things, then I'll be enough. And it was that mindset that led me to temporarily destroying my body, like being in 2 slings for 4 months. Awful. And that got into, you talk about your grandparents, tragedy comes, and to use biblical terms, a flood is coming. And I learned this from Jordan Peterson, that the message of Noah and the flood is that a flood's coming, but you want to be the guy who builds the ark when the flood comes. And for me, my ark was the people in my life and my perspective, my philosophy. And that got me through the hardest time of my life when, Amber had to put my contacts in. When I was trying to run a jiu-jitsu school without arms at work. And everyone stepped up, man. All the senior students started teaching. They did an amazing job. The community was super supportive. Amber and I moved in with my family for, a couple months so my parents could cook us meals and give us a place to stay. And I realized that no matter how well you live, and usually the flood comes either from just nature or sins of omission. There were signs and you weren't paying attention.
Right.
And I wasn't paying attention, and that's why that's the first heroic habit in the next book. You have to pay attention.
Yep.
Before that egg grows and becomes a dragon that eats you, right? But I was able to get through the hardest part of my life because of the people and the perspective. That your life can be a tragedy, but it doesn't have to be hell. There's a difference there. And if you live properly, if you speak the truth and you aim toward the proper thing, no matter how much suffering comes upon you, you can bear it. That's what the image of Christ is. It's voluntarily accepting the heaviest burden for the people around you. And sometimes you choose that burden, or sometimes it's just kind of put on you.
Right. Well, I think with a situation like that too, I think life slows down.
Dude, so much so.
And you're just whoa. Whoa.
Now all I want is to be able to grab a coffee mug and give myself a drink.
Right. Who was wiping your butt? Was Amber wiping your butt?
Got a bidet.
$30
$30 on Amazon. That was the one thing. I was we're keeping romance in our relationship. That is not happening. She did everything else.
You're talking about all this stuff, and I'm thinking 2 slings, dude. Who's washing your ass?
Dude, it was ridiculous.
Bidets, man.
I learned more about life from that experience than any book I've ever read. It knocked me down so many pegs in all the ways I needed to be knocked down. It made me accepting of myself. And it was crazy because I watched my body just atrophy. But I was more accepting of what I was and am now than when I could do anything I wanted physically a year or two ago. So it's been a blessing. Tony Robbins says, a problem is a gift if you learn from it. And it seems like we've both done a pretty good job of learning from the problems that presented itself to us.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I feel the same way, man. I tell people all the time, man, my ACL was a blessing in disguise because it slowed life down for me. I mean, we got the cousin in the studio, and he got a little glimpse of it today. Just in the car, I made 15, 20 phone calls on the way here.
Yeah.
Just getting shit done and my life is so fast, and our lives are so fast. You know, you go to home, you write a book,
Yeah.
you go mountain biking, you have a couple of meetings here and there, and then you go teach classes till the end of the night, and then it's tomorrow, and you have your whole schedule, and it's like when you have this shit, you have to slow down and really like, whoa, just take a breath.
Yeah. Dude, how do you organize it?
It's tough. I'm not the best organizer.
No.
I have OCD. My life is very organized, but as far as like scheduling things and stuff, I've gotten better.
Okay.
But I'm kind of a guy that likes to get shit done as soon as possible.
Yeah.
You know, like I hate waiting. I hate saying,
Me
"Oh,
too.
let's do it tomorrow."
Me too.
Like
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate
We're
why
not built
tomorrow?
that way. Yeah.
Why tomorrow? We got 8 more hours left in the day. Why can't we just get it done now? Like, tell me what you need me to do, and we'll get this shit done.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
But I think for me too is I have a great team and great friends around me, to where they understand my life,
Mhm.
to where they can help. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
and help organize that. But I think for me is really just figuring out what are the more important things, schedule that, organize that,
Yes.
have that ready to go at all times. And then the other bullshit, just have on the back burner.
Yeah.
And then when one of these things are done or slowed down, then it's like, all right, we'll pull this one in. We'll knock that out.
Yep.
You know? So I have like a big vision board in my apartment that I'm always
Cool.
changing up, and I'm always doing stuff. So like that's the stuff that keeps me guided and understanding what I need to get done.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So these last few weeks have been chaotic, and I've had to organize a lot of different things in my life, but really having my cell phone with the calendar and scheduling every single thing.
Google Calendar.
Google Calendar.
That's it, man.
And what's the app I use? Oh, the Notepad.
Okay.
Notepad
Yeah.
is like my best friend.
It's an external brain.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because if I don't write shit down, I forget it.
I'm the same way.
I'm like 10-second Tom. You know what I mean? I really am. So that's how I break it down. How do you organize your stuff?
I use Evernote.
Oh,
And man, so I mapped out the year of what I hope to accomplish. Now, that's based off the idea that my goals on January 1st will be the same as my goals December 31st a year later.
mm-hmm.
And if it's not, I deviate. But I mapped out the whole year, and then I mapped out the quarter. And then based off the quarter, I said, what do I want to prioritize this month? And then I go week to week. Like I'll sit down before any week starts. And what are all the things I need to accomplish this week? Whether it's in my health, how many workouts, or my relationship, where's the quality time with Amber, or the business, what tasks do I have to do, what chapters do I want to write in the books, and I map that all out. And I'll even go to, like, I have it mapped out what I'm doing tomorrow, and Wednesday, and Thursday. I already know that it's going to be 2 hours here, 2 hours here.
Right.
Because, like, a schedule is, I think it was Annie Dillard who said, a schedule is a net for catching days. That's it, bro. I want to be as efficient as possible without losing my mind.
Right.
So I structure it all out. And then at the end of the week, I do a postmortem. How'd I do? Where was I good? Where was I weak? And then I course correct for the next week.
See, that's good. I've never done that before.
Dude, it's super helpful because there's
Yeah.
so much, you have so much going on. It's
Right.
so easy for things to fall through the crack. And like we said earlier, if you define your mountain and you know where you're going, then each week you can say, what's moving me closer to my mountain
Right.
in every area of my life.
Well, something too, dude, like I've done a lot lately is I make sure every day I do one thing for myself,
Good for you. Yeah.
you know? And for me, in all this time that, you know, I've started getting busier and popular and, you know, started really honing in on my life, my phone doesn't stop ringing every day to help other people.
Yeah.
Because people know that I'll give them the correct answer. People know that I'm the guy to get shit done.
Mm-hmm.
People know that if I don't have it, I know a guy that has it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, which is fine. Sometimes I kind of just want to shut my phone off and just say, fuck it, figure it out yourself.
Dude, yeah, I get that. Yeah.
You know? But a lot of times, somebody said it to us. I forget. I was with a friend and I helped somebody out. I'm like, why can't you just figure out? She's like, you love it, don't you? And I'm like, you know what it is? I don't love it, but I'd rather help them figure it out than to have them run around crazy and not get it done.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Dude, no, you're a good dude. I'm a little bit more selfish to a fault.
Mm.
My phone's on silent all day. And I even schedule that in. Like I'm returning messages in these 15 minutes today. And then I
Wow.
won't look at it again until
Wow.
tomorrow.
Wow.
There's an idea that you could label your inbox other people's to-dos, you know, and that works for productivity, not the best for relationships, but
Right.
I try to really guard my time to a fault, definitely. Like I needed to be a little bit more like you.
What? Oh, like help.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Be a little bit more open at any time. So one of my favorite books is a book called Joshua, and it's a fictional tale where if Jesus came back today and he was a regular dude, it's how he would treat people and how people would treat him. And it's fascinating, man. It's awesome. And there was one scene that always stuck out with me where he was working in the yard. And when someone would drive by, get out of the car, come over to say hi, no matter what he was doing, he would stop and he'd go over to them. And because he acted as if they were more important than any task he was doing. And admittedly, I've always kind of been the opposite. I've been like, this is my writing time. I'm in my own world. And that's how my brain works. I have to hyper focus on this.
Right.
And I always love the idea of just putting other people first. And it's something that I'm actively trying to pursue now. And a puppy and a fiance are a great way to do that. But I love how you do it, man. You're always there for other people. And at the end of the day, that's what matters.
Yeah, man. I just feel like if you create an atmosphere around you, that you're always going to be okay. You know what I'm saying? It's like no matter how tough life gets, no matter what crazy stuff happens, it's you surround yourself, you associate yourself with the people around you. You know what I'm saying? You are who you are by who you associate yourself with.
Completely.
You know, and for me, it's like I rather take the 5 minutes to help somebody and whatever it is, a phone call, a text message. Because for me, it challenges me too. You know, it's like a personal challenge. Yeah. It's like, wow, can I get this done? And then like at the end of the day, where I should just take a step back and say, what did I get done today? And if I write all that shit down and be like, fuck, we did a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we did a lot, and we did a lot. It might have been for other people, but I'm cool with that.
Yes.
You know, I'm cool with that because at the end of the day, it's like you can only be who you are. You know, you can't be anyone else. You can't be a superhero. You can't be, 10 different people if you wanted to be. But you can be you. And if that one person, you, can be the best you helping others.
That's it, bro.
I'm cool.
That's why we're here.
I'm cool.
Yeah.
And that's like no bullshit, like, and it's funny because like every week it kind of changes. Like some week I'm way more helpful. And then other weeks I kind of dial it back and I'm like, figure it out your fucking self. You know, I'm sick. Like when are you going to help me? You know what I'm saying? But like most of the time I try to dial it down and say, nah, fuck that. We're going to figure it out. I got you, and it settles well with me. It'll sit well with me.
Man, it's the George Bailey effect. Have you seen It's a Wonderful Life?
It's a Wonderful Life. The movie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bro, it's my favorite movie.
Oh,
Not favorite Christmas movie. Favorite movie.
Favorite movie.
I'll watch it like 10 times in December every year. Because George Bailey gets the opportunity to see what the world would be like if he wasn't here. And the effect he's had on other people. And that to me is the ticket. Like how much better can you make the world because you were here? And you start with yourself. You figure yourself out, and then you figure out your relationship, you figure out your community, and if you're lucky, you branch out beyond your community. But it would be really cool to see what the world would be like if you weren't here. Right. Hopefully it's a lot better because you're here.
I always, it was funny, we talked about that with Frankie, and, I wonder if anybody else does this, but, like, I would love to, like, you ever think about, like, being, like, 60 or 70?
All the time. Every day.
Know?
Every day.
And, like being old and looking back at, like, what you did in your life, and just being like, fuck. Like, I've touched so many lives. I've done so many crazy things, Just think about, like, being 70 and being a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Like, you can't take that away from you.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, MMA, when I'm 7 years old, I fought Sam Stout, I went back to the UFC, whatever it might be, it's like, they can't take that away from you.
Yes.
Like, that is for your grandkids, and you'll always be known as that, like, yo, that philosopher, grandpa, or that was a black belt in jiu-jitsu, that, you know what I mean? It's wild. Yeah. It's wild, and I like to sometimes take a step back, and it's like, man, I feel like we don't do that enough now.
Dude, I agree completely.
And we kind of lose track of what's going on, and then before you know it, we're 60 or 70, and it's like, where the fuck did time go? Yeah.
Man, when my grandma, when she was still alive, we'd visit her in the nursing home, and I would always come out of there so inspired to go do something. Because we complain, we train all the time, we're beat up. Something always hurts, and we joke like we're old men. But when you're actually around people who are 80, 90, 100 years old, and you realize what old means, and you realize the freedom that comes with youth. And as we're getting a little bit older now, we're starting to lose a little bit of that freedom. At least I am. I can't do the things I could do physically 10 years ago, but I can still do just about everything.
Right.
But to actually appreciate that and love that and recognize that, 70 years from now, I'm not going to be able to do this. Like, my life goal now is I want to walk through the park with my grandkids when I'm 100, pain-free. And now all of my actions are aiming in that direction.
Right.
That's what I'm going for. Because I tasted what it's like to lose freedom by tearing both pecs.
Uh-huh.
When, like, I couldn't open a door to go outside unless someone was home to let me out. Like, I got to feel that. I went from being able to do anything I wanted physically to nothing. So now I kind of got a small taste, a quick sample of what's in the future for all of us if we're lucky, if you make it to that.
If you make it, right.
So now between now and then, man, I want to enjoy every second and be mindful of all the little things we do each day that we take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
That youth doesn't allow you to realize how special it is because it's all you've ever been.
That's
right?
crazy.
Like when you got laid up after surgery, man, you probably realized how much you took for granted just getting up and walking to the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I was walking the next day. I couldn't do it. Yeah. I couldn't do it. I was like, there's no way I'm sitting on this couch. I told my boy, I'm like, yo, you're picking me up. I'll buy all the pizza.
Cool.
And you're going to be working in the house. I'll bring my laptop. We'll figure shit out. There's no way I can sit on this couch and just, let time go.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah, because any moment wasted is just, I always think like you're negotiating with potential, right? And what you could be is an infinite ideal.
Mm-hmm.
And any day you miss pursuing that, you're going to end up being a little bit worse.
Right,
a little bit less than you could have been, which means the world's going to be a little bit less than it would have been. It holds true for all of us. And then the worst part that really hits you is, when I'm a father, when I have kids, if I don't do my best today, they'll be a little worse in the future. And that might be a little hyperbolic, like maybe I'm being a little ridiculous there, but it's true.
But it is true, and it might not be today, but if I'm not, it could be a week. It could be that month.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But that's also us, I think, the competitive nature and trying to be the best who we are, too. You know what I mean?
Our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. It's why we'll suffer all that we will, but it's also why you're going to achieve all the great things you're going to achieve.
Right.
And that duality, man, there's no way around that. If I've learned anything from this experience with the injury, it's just everything is ambivalent. There's a positive and a negative side to all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that you most love about yourself are the reasons why you're also going to suffer the most. And it's the same with the people around you. The thing that you maybe can't stand the most about your partner is probably the flip side of the thing you love most about her. It's just how it always works out, and I have a really great mentor. So at 22, I met Professor Almeida, and I trained all day with him. And then at night, my boss was Dr. Lemming, who's a great psychologist. He's a motivational speaker now, a life coach, and an awesome dude. And we were hanging out this Friday, and he was talking about letting go of praise and letting go of blame and understanding that you came into the world as you are. This is what you are. And like you said, right, like I don't know how much say we had in it. You have all of your particular attributes, and that's what you are. And if we praise ourselves for all the things that we are, then we're also tacitly criticizing ourselves for all the things we're not, rather than realizing that, this is just kind of what we are. It's one package.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been very hard on myself for, say, I've been hyper-focused on one thing, but then I neglect everything else. But it's the hyper-focus that allows me to have success over here, but that success's flip side is my failure everywhere else. But that's part of one process.
Right.
It's taken a long time to see that and feel that.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. See, that's why I like talking to you, bro.
Dude,
I knew this was going to be good.
Right?
Because you just break down and you're I don't know the correct term to use, but bro, you just break things down so how do I say this? Break things down, like obviously it's different, but you break it down in different branches to where it's like everyone can understand. It's
Bro,
like,
I appreciate that.
Yeah. But because you're so well read. I mean, do you know how many books you've ever read?
Not a clue.
No?
Not a clue.
So there is some people out there that count.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So why are you reading a book, right? I think a lot of people read as
Well,
a
I
way
think
of
they
collecting
count because they
trophies.
keep them.
Oh, I keep them too. But
Right.
then so where I used to live, my buddy Jimmy's, he has one wall in his study, which is probably, 20 feet across, 10 foot high, and it's a bookshelf. And those are all my books. I left them all there. And that's a small representation of the things I've read. Dude, I
Right.
love reading. I would rather read than eat breakfast. And
Really?
I do some days. Yeah. Because it just informs you how to live.
How many books you read a week?
Now I'm reading pretty hard books. And it's been so.
No, read it pretty.
I kind of built my own curriculum. One of my goals for quarter one was to read Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning,
Okay.
Carl Jung's Symbols of Transformation, and Eric Neumann's The Origin and History of Consciousness. And these three are my own curriculum for phenomenology, like the study of being. And they're three of the hardest books that I've ever read. They might be the three hardest I've ever read. So
Hard as far as vocabulary and bringing it in.
Not even vocabulary, but trying to understand the concepts they're discussing. They're so dense. I mean, Jordan Peterson's book is, say, 450 pages, size 8 font.
Right.
And there are some sentences that you have to read like 12 times. So I've been reading lately, that's been in the last 3 months, those 3 books.
Oh, wow.
And, a few hours a day and just trying to plug away at it. But to the degree that I understand it, man, my life improves. They've been, Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning is one of the best books I've ever read. It offers a complete schema through mythology, through religion. Like, here's what the humanities have been trying to tell us. And then here's how it's described through a psychological lens, a neurological lens, through literature. Because if something holds true across multiple layers of resolution,
right,
it's probably more likely to be true. And he breaks down that, how basically you could sum that up as the path forward is to voluntarily adopt as much suffering as possible to give your life meaning. That's what Buddhism's been trying to tell us. It's what Christianity's been trying to tell us.
Right.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I'm reading slowly now, about a book a month, but they're great books.
A book a month. Yeah. That's crazy.
Great books.
I'm not a big reader.
No?
I'll be honest. I do audibles.
Dude, so that's the same thing.
Yeah, I do audibles.
Ideas.
Yeah. I definitely, I have on my vision board, I want to read 4 books.
What books?
I don't know. I don't know any books, but I want to read 4 books. I've told myself over and over again, like, for me, like, my life doesn't stop, like, I'm in and out. My dog, like, never sees me, you know what I'm saying? It's so bad, but like, yeah. I feel terrible, but where I live is fortunate where he can be outside, and inside he can kind of choose, but like, I'm in and out. Like, I come in, I change my clothes, grab what I got to grab, and I'm out.
Yeah.
Very rare do you see me on the couch in my house. You know what I mean?
Dude, it might be good for you then.
It might be.
To take half an hour a couple times a week.
Yeah.
And just read and be there and be quiet.
Right. And it's funny because, like, people, the first time I had to read something in a while, like, actually read something, pronounce it correctly, and project it on a microphone was a few weeks ago. And I was in Orlando doing this Botox event. And they had a whole script that I had to read. 8 different ones.
Okay.
8, 9, whatever. Number doesn't matter. But I'm like, holy shit, I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, dude, I haven't read something. And I can't even tell you how long it's been. Yeah. And it was fucked up because I'm like, I got to read this shit in front of a room full of 500, 600 people.
How'd it go?
Oh, I aced it, like, I practiced it and whatnot, but, like, I was not prepared for that.
Yeah.
I was not prepared. And, there was another, like, 1,000+ streaming at home. So it was like, if I fucked up, people were going to know me. And if I fucked up, I was never going to get booked again. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, that really, like, put into consideration. I was like, I need to start reading. I need to, broaden my vocabulary. I need to broaden my mindset on things. I really need to start learning within, and, that's why I was like, I put it right on my board. I was like, I need to read 4 books this year.
Good for you, bro.
I got to read 4 books. Whatever books. It could be small. It could be big. I have to read 4 books this year.
Dude, you have to. And that's all part of that. You want to be speaking to people.
Mm-hmm.
In whatever capacity, that's your future.
Right.
You're going to be communicating with people. And that is one very good medium to learn how to communicate.
Right.
To get other people's ideas said in a very different way than you can say them. And it's like a cornucopia. You take a little bit from this guy, a little bit from this guy, and you form your own view. But it's so valuable. It's necessary.
It is. Absolutely. And I think communication lacks nowadays.
Bro, so slight tangent that's directly related. So the oldest recorded religion is from Mesopotamia. It's called the Enuma Elish. And there's a god Marduk in there, which slays Tiamat, which is the primordial dragon of chaos. And he creates habitable order out of her pieces. But Marduk had eyes that went all the way around his head, and he spoke magic words. And that symbolism is a representation of the highest culture in the community at that time. So back then that they realized, like, the key to be the hero, to move the world forward, was to speak clearly. And the newest articulation of that idea would be Christ, true speech. I don't think there's anything more valuable than being able to articulate true ideas clearly and properly.
Right.
It is a superpower. You can do anything in the world you want if you can communicate clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And you're great at it, but actively pursuing improving it. It's more
Exactly.
tools. Dude, it's like, all right, you go work with Mark Henry and you learn, I'm not a striking guy, you know that. But you learn a new way to throw a jab or a hook or something. It's a new tool. It's a new tool for your utility belt.
Mm-hmm.
That's what books are.
Right.
And then with those tools, now you're capable of doing more. You have to read.
Yeah. I definitely do. I'm probably gonna read a book today.
Bro,
Fuck it. I'm reading a book today.
Send me a picture.
I'm gonna probably read one of your books today. How about that?
Well, I hope it's worth your time.
I'm gonna probably read one of your books today. I'm telling you. Steve, you got that? We're reading a book. We're gonna read books today. All right. My cousin's in the
I'll
background.
give you guys something before you leave.
There he goes.
Yeah,
we got some books. But yeah, man. And that was another thing too where I wanted to when I went to Costa Rica. I'm Spanish, and they wanted a, somewhat of a bilingual introduction.
Okay.
I'm not fluent in Spanish,
Okay.
but I made it work. And when I was done with my first wedding, I had 2 weddings out there. My mother calls me, how'd it go? She always calls, she's like my biggest fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I go, Mom, to be honest, I'm absolutely embarrassed. And she goes, why? What happened? Oh my God. Like the equipment break or whatnot. I was like, Mom, no, the wedding was a 10. But I'm extremely embarrassed on how bad my Spanish is.
Look at that. Yeah.
So now I need to work on my Spanish. And I'm not looking, obviously I want to be as fluent as possible, but I need to work on the bases.
Yeah.
Now I just started speaking to her in Spanish way more in person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just, it's cool. I think why people tend not to learn, whether it's a language or something, it's because one, they don't understand it, and 2, they're not confident, and 3, they don't want to be wrong.
Yeah.
They don't want that feeling that almost like embarrassing feeling.
Of failing.
Of failing.
Yeah. And 4, you need a reason why.
Yeah.
Because that's hard, man.
Right.
Learning a language is difficult.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
It is hard. And what's crazy is any country or anywhere I go, I always try to adapt to their language and learn.
Yeah.
Like when I go to Brazil, like I can get around with the little Portuguese that I know. But if I'm there for like 10 days, I'm good. Dude, you catch me at day 8, like we're having a conversation.
Now you were just in Japan, right?
I was just in Japan. Now that was a whole nother animal. Okay. That was arigato, namaste, that's a hard language, Same with Russian, like the Dagestan guys come in.
Yeah, how old are you? I was talking to someone about that, like Lincoln. Love Lincoln.
Right.
Right? And I felt like we had a really great relationship, but we never spoke a word.
Right.
It was just you do your first round of randori, and then Zabit would come over, and we'd smile and shake
Right.
hands, and we'd train. And we had like a real rapport, but we never spoke.
Never spoke.
It's amazing how you do
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like you speaking with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And he just understood. And he's getting better, with his stuff. And I really wasn't there this whole camp. I saw him a couple of times. But yeah, man, it's just trying to adapt to your surroundings. And you figure that out. I was like, if I can figure it out there, I can figure it out here.
No doubt.
I'm just being lazy.
Yeah.
And not wanting to broaden my horizon with that. You know what I'm saying? So I even told myself, I was like, maybe I should just go move to Cuba for a year.
Dude, you'll learn real quick that
Learn
Can you move
Spanish.
to Cuba? Like politically, where's that at?
I don't know.
Look into that first.
I don't know where that's at. I went about 2.5 years ago.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I still have family there.
Oh, cool.
But, move to Cuba, go train. They got good judo
Yeah.
and boxing.
Man, that's how you learn anything. Immerse yourself in it.
Yeah. Bro, I'm getting so close in my life to where I'm just ready to like shut everything down.
Yeah.
Delete everything and just move somewhere and just figure life out. Like
Dude,
sell
do it.
coconuts
Yeah.
and surf lessons and read books all day.
When you get that call, you have to do it. Bro, when I was 30 years old, I took a summer off and I went on a solo road trip across America.
Yeah. Tell us about this because this was wild, people. Listen to this.
It was amazing. So I was 29 years old. I was teaching at Professor Almeida's school in Newtown. And about 7 months prior, I tore my pec the first time. And that's when I was like, I need to reevaluate everything. I'm getting this message from God, the universe, whatever, that I am not supposed to be doing what I'm doing right now.
Right.
So I officiated Rob Cook's wedding, which was awesome. And then the next day I just left. And this was in like May of 2017. And then I just drove across the country and camped out at all the national parks. I was out for 3 months. I spent a lot of time in Colorado, did all the canyons in Utah, Started in Southern California, worked my way up, spent a lot of time in Montana, Wyoming, and I just camped out in the most beautiful places in America. Solo, and just reassessed, just tried to figure stuff out. And I needed that time alone by myself because you have all these relationships and you're a different version of yourself with each of these people, just a little bit different. And it takes a lot of psychological energy to maintain all of those relationships and the versions of yourself because they deviate a little bit. Who you are with your mom, who you are with your boys, it's a little different.
Right.
And for the first time in my life, I was able to be free of all of that. And it was just my relationship to myself. And I've always felt more connected to whatever brought us here in nature than in any building. So I could just sleep under the stars for like 3 months straight and like didn't see people for days and just really reconnected. And I realized when I was out there that I wanted to live the life I had been living this whole time. I wanted to serve people through jiu-jitsu. And had I not taken that trip, I would have moved on to something else. Because you start to develop like an adversarial relationship to what you're doing.
Right.
You know, because it confines you so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to take time off from jiu-jitsu for the first time in 10 years and realize that like, no, this is exactly what I want. And that's when I was able to, because I had been single forever. And I realized that.
Amen.
Yeah. That I was ready. You know, I was ready to move on to that next stage in life. I turned 30 sitting in a hot spring on top of a mountain in Colorado after a day-long hike through the snow. You know, it was a very like a good representation of the renovation of my own psyche, you know. And I came back and I was like, yeah, I'm ready to put down anchors. And then I met Amber a few months later. We opened up the school. Now we got a puppy. And I knew that like I was ready to put down roots here because I was always afraid of that.
Right.
There's that Sylvia Plath idea from the fig tree. She uses the imagery of you're sitting underneath a fig tree and each fig represents a different life. And she's sitting there trying to choose which one. And as she sits there, they start to fall. They wither and go black and they fall to the ground. And she misses each opportunity until they all fell because she was so paralyzed by choice, she didn't pick any of them. And she missed all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I had been in my 20s. I was afraid to choose a path at the sacrifice of all others. And then at 30, took that time away, reassessed. I figured out what my path was, and I chose a fig. But it was my time away that allowed me to be here right now in this academy. So if you feel that call, bro, you have to.
What made you make that decision? Like, what did something happen in your life, or
Tearing
were
the
you
pec.
tearing the pec?
So, dude, it was a competition idea because I competed, but it was never really.
So this is
my
the
thing.
second time you tore your pecs.
Yeah, yeah.
What the hell, bro?
No, I know. So the last time I competed, I was in an inside heel hook. This was like years ago. And I drilled the escape 1,000 times that week, and I knew exactly what to do. But I was like frozen. Like something was holding me there, being like, yo, you have to experience this. You're not supposed to be doing this. Because in my warm-up that day, dude popped my ankle, did something awful to it, doing a penetration step. Like that was a sign. And then in the tournament, when I'm in that inside heel hook, like something was holding me down, and I just couldn't move. Like I knew exactly what to do, but I couldn't move. And it popped, and before I even stood up, I knew, like, yo, you're not supposed to be doing this.
Right.
And then training was going really well. I was feeling really good. A year had passed. I was like, I'm going to compete again. I want to win a world championship because I never had, and all of you guys were. So I was like, I felt like I was missing out. So then started strength training again, and I'm benching and doing a warm-up set. Came down, just felt like a tear, like a lightning struck. And before I even sat up off the bench, I knew, like I looked up and was like, all right, I get the message. Like I'm not supposed to be doing this anymore. And that's when I remember calling Professor and just being like, I need to get away and reassess. So we planned it out for that summer, and I just took time away and reconnected to myself and what I was supposed to do.
That's crazy.
So the injury, which was at the time the worst thing that could possibly happen to me, set me on the path to where I am now. So it was a blessing. You know?
It's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Blessing. How long were you out there for?
3 months.
Ooh.
Dude, it was awesome. In my last week, one of my best friends, Chuck, flew out, and we hung out at Glacier National Park. That's at the northernmost part of Montana on the edge of Canada. Most beautiful scenery I've ever seen. So I got to cap it all off with my boy in unreal scenery. The stars, like, you know, it almost, I remember the first time I saw the stars in Colorado in the middle of nowhere, like I'd never seen before. And I was almost fearful. Like it shook me. Like I'd never seen something so magnificent. It was crazy. And I had so many times like that. Like every other day I was just crying tears of gratitude. Like so grateful for my life and, you know, everything I'd experienced. And it was the exact cathartic experience I needed to move on to the next phase of life. Like we don't have a rite of passage in this culture.
Right.
You know, there's nothing for a girl becomes a woman by biology. We don't become a man until we go through something that causes a lot of suffering or we adopt a lot of responsibility.
Right.
And I think that's what martial arts was for both of us. You know, it was the adopting of a lot of responsibility, and it was a rite of passage that was so difficult that we had to come out the other side as a new version of ourselves. And that was just the most recent form of that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Boom. Punch you right in the face with life, people. Damn. That's wild.
Yeah, it was
That's
amazing.
why. Were you like nervous or scared at any moment? Like, fuck, what am I doing?
There were a few times, like I never
Because that
had
couldn't have
any-
been all good.
Most of it was good.
Yeah. Okay.
There was a time when I was in the slot canyons in Utah where I was hiking all day and I lost track of where my car was, and I wasn't prepared. I only had like half a bottle of water.
Oh my
I had
god.
one Lara bar, and then all of a sudden I climb out of the slot canyons and I get up and I can't see my car, and that's when like panic set in. From like 1 to 5, 5 being like a saber-tooth tiger, I was probably like a 3.5. And the sun's setting, so I'm like getting out looking for the highest point, trying to find my car. I eventually was able to orient myself based off like the sun and a distant mountain range and found it. But there were some other times, like on that crazy hike on my 30th birthday, it was through 6 feet of snow. Like, it was crazy. Like, it was in Conundrum Creek, and it was closed at that time. And normally that's like the tourist attraction in Aspen, in that area. But I was early in the season, so dude, there was snow everywhere. So it's like up to here, you know, it was rough. And what was supposed to be like a 9-mile hike ended up being something like a 15-mile meandering thing up. And I didn't prepare. So again, second time when I did not prepare. And I got up there like soaked. I had a sweatshirt. I lost my tent on the way up there, so I had to sleep on the ground on the top, like completely ill prepared. But then there were, flip sides of that, where I remember I spent time at the Grand Canyon, and bro, I would sit and stare at the Grand Canyon for like a day and couldn't move. And then I'd get up and be like, all right, I took it in, I'm ready to move on. And I'd walk like 5 feet, and then it would look different. And I'd sit back down, and I'd stare at it again all day. And there were so many cool things like that. Like I remember,
That's wild,
Bro, yeah.
That's wild.
Like-
Holy shit.
and then just how different the contrasting experiences can be. I remember when I was in the Redwoods hiking, and I didn't have service for most of the trip, but I had service in this one little spot. You think you're in like Jurassic Park. And I was talking to Pete McHugh, who was expecting his first child, and I think Melissa had gone into labor. And it was just so crazy to think like my best friend is across the country in an ER right now, and is about to have a baby, and I'm by myself in the Redwoods. And
Yeah.
dude, it was awesome. I had one crazy time. I went in the backcountry of Yellowstone National Park, because that's like Disney World, man. It's super crowded.
Uh-huh.
But there are a few backcountry passes where you can kind of go off on your own. And I was in an area where wolves were, and I heard wolves around my tent at night. And I remember that day, I was actually reading Justin Wren's book, and I haven't told him this, so we just worked with him to build a well through a
Okay.
charity fundraiser with Frankie and Professor. And I was reading his book, Fight for the Forgotten. And I was in the woods on the edge of a clearing that was, like maybe 50 football fields in a big, beautiful mountain range. And I was sitting there, and I was about to leave there to go meet my buddy in Glacier and then come home. And I was like, why am I leaving? This is the best mode of living I've ever experienced.
Right.
What am I doing? So I watch the sunset. I go in my tent, and I hear wolves around the tent. And I was like, yo, that's why I'm leaving. I'm getting out of here. It was
That's
awesome,
wild.
man. Yeah.
That's wild. 3 months out there.
Dude, yeah. I was so grateful to have that experience. If you feel the call, and anyone listening, if you feel the call that you have to go do something like that, you have to. Like in all of the mythology and religions, like the hero, the savior, always spends time alone somewhere. You always have to have a descent before an ascent. And if you feel that call, you have to answer it, because it's your soul. It's the self that we talked about pulling you forward, telling you like, yo, this is the place you have to go.
Right.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
3 months.
Dude, it was amazing. And I did it in a Chrysler Sebring convertible with like the window stuck down.
The old silver
no
one?
brakes. Yeah.
No
yeah.
way. No way.
Dude, and I remember going over the Rockies, like thinking my car wasn't going to make it. And then I even told my parents this on the way down. My brakes were so bad, and it's like a steep grade, and it's gravel in some places, that I didn't have my seatbelt on and had the door slightly open on the off chance that my brakes stopped working and I had to jump out of the car.
Oh,
Dude, it
my
was that
God.
bad. It was awful, but it made it. And then like the day I got home, it died. So it served its purpose.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
That car's got some stories,
Dude,
man.
it does. I wonder where it is right now.
It's probably a new Coca-Cola can
I'm
somewhere.
sure it is. I'm sure it is, yeah. It's a license plate.
That's
somewhere.
wild, though. 3 months out there solo.
And then it was cool. So I ended
Did you meet anybody out there?
Yeah. So man, it's crazy.
Because sometimes you run into backpackers. I'm
Dude, you
sure.
do.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I'll be I did a really awesome hike. It was in Yosemite in the backcountry. I did a fasting 30-mile hike just by myself. And you're out Yosemite is out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And then to drive to the trailhead is in the middle of nowhere. And then you hike out in the middle of nowhere. And you still run into like a random dude. Which is super cool because you know that you two have so much in common. There were so many barriers to entry just to get to that spot. There's a fellowship similar to like what we feel through fighting and jiu-jitsu. That you just realize we have a lot in common to both be here right now.
Yeah.
And that's
how
cool.
the fuck did you get out here,
yeah,
bro? You know
what are you doing right now?
What are you doing here? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I would love to do something like that, man. I'm telling you.
Do it now, man, because you're going to meet the girl and you're going to have kids. Do it now before that happens.
It's true, man. It's true. And like we said, life goes so fast and we never take it in. You know what I'm saying? And doing something like that really gets to slow your life down and really take it for what it is.
And reassess
everything.
Yeah.
You know, and then when you come back, it's like you're recharged and it's like Chris Matakas 2.0.
Exactly.
You know?
And it's how many times in our life can we make those iterations?
Mm-hmm.
Can we have a 3.0 and a 4.0?
Right.
Because life gets better each time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you'll hear that faint call like, yo, you're supposed to go off, go to Cuba, take your time.
Right.
And if you ignore it, that whisper gets louder and
louder. Right.
And you got to try to catch it early.
Before the fig rots out.
Dude, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Before the fig rots. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Damn, bro. This was a good one.
This
is a good one. Yeah. It's fucking, when I started this podcast, I started it laid up, with my knee and stuff, and I had my logo and everybody's like, what are you going to talk about? I'm like, I don't know. I'm a good talker. We just have conversation, So it's just like, and then I figured out, first it was, Frankie and the 4 Fs. I don't know why that came to me. It just came to me.
Alliteration works.
Yeah, it just came with me. And they're like, all right, so what are the 4 Fs? I'm like, obviously fighting. That's easy. Obviously females, because it's just in my life. You know what I'm saying? And people just know me for females. And then it was supposed to be food. And why am I having a brain fart? What's the other one?
Family?
No. What's Frankie and the 4 Fs? Holy shit, I just forgot what the hell my show is all about. Some support. I gotta... Whatever. The last 4.
We're going to remove
females fighting, fear, and... what the hell's the 4th F?
You gotta look this
I
up.
have a brain fart. I gotta look this shit up. That's fucked up. I forgot what the 4 Fs were about, people. Don't judge me. Famous. That's what it was. That's what it is. Famous people. Because we talk about famous people all the time. When I first started, I can't believe I just started. I just did that. When I first started, I was like, I want to talk about what's in, what's on World Star Hip Hop, like what kind of famous shit's going on. And then I definitely, I had females in fighting was definite, and then I'm like, oh, famous, perfect, because there is, famous fighters and whatnot. And then it was going to be food. I was going to talk about food, all kinds, because I'm a foodie. But then I was telling a family friend, Daniela, about what I was doing, and she told her son, this is how crazy law of attraction is. Because I believe in all that shit. Law of attraction is so real. Yeah. She was telling her son. And her son is somebody that is a super talented human being. Has been fighting his sexuality for, when he was younger. And never came completely out of the closet.
Okay.
And when they ended up moving to the West Coast and trying to, really broaden their careers and really, one of their kids is a singer, one's a dancer, the other one's a model / actor, And he was always an incredible dancer. Finally moved to the West Coast and really comes out of the closet,
Cool.
and
good for him.
And just a little quick background on them is, comes out of the closet, ends up being a what do you call them? They perform a drag queen.
Oh wow!
Okay, so he's a performer.
Yeah.
And it's becoming super, super popular. It turns into a makeup artist. And now is the face of Ulta.
Really?
Yeah. So if you go into Ulta's and
That's
you see a
incredible.
male model in the photos, they're he's sponsored by them or whatever. He is the first male Ulta model ever.
That.
Vin Castronovo. So if you guys know him, He's out on the West Coast killing it right now. His family is like my family.
Cool.
I've known them forever. And they're absolutely amazing people. Where the hell was I going with that?
Where the famous came from.
Oh, so famous. Right. Thanks, Chris. So I had food, right? And so she's telling him this story. As I'm on the phone, and she's like, Frankie's starting a podcast. It's Frankie and the 4F. She's like, no way. She's like, what the fuck are the 4Fs? You know what I mean? Like everybody was saying. And so I was telling him, I was like, famous people fighting females. And he's like, what's the last one? Before I even said it, he's like, what's the last one? Fear? And I'm like,
That's a good one.
ooh.
Yeah.
I was like, that's crazy. Especially coming from him, because he's lived his whole life being fearful of being judged
Yeah.
and living this life almost like a facade kind of life.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm a normal kid, whatever it is. And he's still normal. He just, his sexuality is different from others.
Yeah.
And now he's, in the makeup world. Now he's a drag queen. So like fear, it was so huge in his life
Yes.
that coming from his mouth, I was like, this makes sense.
Yeah.
So this has got to be fear.
Yeah.
And that was huge, and that's really what I wanted to stem to this podcast, was talking about all these different, subjects, but how they all stem together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how everybody's, you have your own different set of fears.
Yeah.
Your own different set of females. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. On and off the mat. It doesn't have to be a relationship. It could just be, situations that you've had in the past, or, whatever, things you've run into. Fighting, obviously, with jiu-jitsu and stuff. And famous things as far as how they intertwine together. You don't have to be famous. It's okay to be not famous. It's okay not to have, this spotlight on you. It's okay to be a normal person in society. And when I talked about this podcast, where a lot of people can relate, is I talk about real shit, and I talk about everyday shit, and I talk about shit that people go through. And I felt like all four of these titles really intertwine with one another in one way or another.
That's beautiful.
And when it comes to, like, famous people, believe it or not, are sometimes the least confident human beings out there.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
And they deal with fear every single day. You know what I'm saying? It's fear of being judged. It's fear of what's about to happen. It's fear of not being enough anymore. It's fear of being lost, and that's where the listeners and people that hear this out have to understand, like, it's going to be okay. We're all the same.
Yeah.
Whether you have 1 million followers on Instagram or whether you have no Instagram at all.
Yeah.
We're all the same. We have all our different dragons.
Dude, we're all on that hero
We're
journey.
all on that. We're all on that. And everybody has their own path, and everybody has got to figure out which fig to grab before they all rot out. You know what I'm saying? And these are the conversations that are going to make everybody learn and open up everybody's brains to a whole new different outlet, subject, title, career, something different, some new doorway that's going to open up for them and understand the concept of their life.
Yes.
And it might not last for long. It might last for a week, might last for a day, might last for an hour, might last for a year. But at least you're trying and you're opening it. If you envision it once, you can envision it again.
Yeah. And you can start right now, exactly where you're at.
Right here.
With whatever problems you have
Exactly.
to solve.
And that's where I really wanted this podcast. I'm not trying to save lives, but I just want to talk about shit that people are afraid to talk about.
Dude, that's amazing.
And I'm not afraid. I don't give a fuck. You can judge me for who I am. You're going to do it with or without a podcast. You know what I'm saying? So it really doesn't matter. But I talk about the realest of real shit here. And sometimes, we do talk about some fun shit. I try to make every podcast fun, but sometimes we get super informational on shit. Yeah. And super down and philosophical on stuff, and really break it down to where people need to be able to relate and coordinate through it with their own perspective.
Yes.
Because
we all have our own complexity problem. There are so many pieces of your life to balance. And you're realizing that now, right? You're opening more and more doors. Yeah. There's more stuff to remember and write down. Mm-hmm. And the dragon comes in so many forms. It's almost cliche, right? You hear you're the hero of your own story. But their truth is hidden in cliches. You are. And right now where you're standing, you can make some tangible change that will allow you to confront a fear, change your life, change the life of people around you. And I've always used that feeling of fear. You know, we said you can use meaning to orient yourself in your life. You can use fear too. Like, I remember when Rob Cook asked me to officiate his wedding, and I've done, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 of them so far. But I remember that feeling in my gut that I was terrified when he asked me. And I was like, well, I have to say yes now. You know, and I've tried to, and I do it most of the time. Whenever I feel that scared feeling, I absolutely have to do it and pursue it. Because there's an idea from Joseph Campbell, right? The cave you fear to enter holds a treasure that you seek.
Right.
That's it, bro.
Yeah.
If you can pursue your fear and allow that to guide you too. And we're always afraid of something. There's always a difficult conversation you don't want to have, or a business venture you're afraid to go on, or a word you're afraid to speak. But life always gets better on the other side of fear.
Right.
And it's building up. So this is what I really like. In all these stories, we say there's a dragon hoarding gold, right? But in life, the dragon and the gold are the same thing. It's that ambivalence that runs through everything. It's a thing you're afraid of that is the direct thing you need. You know, another idea from the alchemists is in filth it will be found. You know, what you want to find is to be found where you least want to look. And that's a powerful idea. So
that's crazy.
There's this King Arthur legend where Arthur and the knights are sitting around the table and the Holy Grail appears, you know, and it's veiled. And then someone says, hey, let's go pursue the Holy Grail. So they all get on their horses and they ride off and they get to the forest adventurous. And then this is like the point of the story. Each knight goes into the forest at the place where it's darkest to him, where there is no path, so he can make his own path. Because if there's a path, you're on someone else's.
Right.
And read in another way is each knight went where he was most afraid, where it was darkest, to find only what he could find. Like, you can use fear to orient yourself. It's a powerful, and it's a wisdom we don't understand, right? It's a physiological feeling. I think we're so inclined to think from the neck up.
Right.
And we overvalue this rationalistic mind. But it's so short. It's a tool, but it's short-sighted.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a wisdom in you that is trying to communicate to you just as much as your brain is. And fear is a feeling, and you can use that to guide you.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so true, man. It's so it is absolutely, you couldn't have said it any better there, because, you know, I've been in this entertainment industry for so long, and, you know, I'm getting to the point to where I'm still open. I'm an open book, and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
But the nerves of being nervous on talking on a mic in front of people is not there anymore, because I'm so confident what I do. I know how to move a crowd. I know how to, you know, adjust my vocabulary and adapt to the different playlists and the different, you know, demographic that I'm dealing with there. But when I went down to Florida and did that Botox event, I've never been so nervous in my life.
Yeah.
And I haven't been that nervous in years. You know, probably just as nervous my first UFC fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's when I knew it was right.
Yes.
You know, that's when I knew I was like, these are the lights, that thing that we were talking about before the podcast.
Yep.
These are the lights that I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
This is the spotlight. This is the moment. This is the feeling. This is the energy to where I had that experience, and now it's here.
Yes.
You know, now we're here. This is what I've been waiting for. And then it took a full understanding when I was on that plane coming home. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do.
Yes. Good for you.
This
bro.
is my life, you know, and I completely understand. It completely relates to the same story, you know. It's still, it's the same thing.
And to keep pursuing that fear.
And keep pursuing it.
You know Sisyphus? Have you heard of?
No.
From Greek mythology. So he was condemned to roll a boulder up a hill, and when it would get to the top, it would roll back down. And he had to do that for all of eternity. That idea gave me so much confidence and strength in like my early 20s. Think of training. Every day it's Groundhog Day, right? You push a boulder up a hill, you go to bed, there's a new boulder.
Right.
And the idea is that you just conquered your fear, right, at that altar. But you got to find a new fear.
Right.
That was your boulder, but as soon as you do that, you reach a new height and a heavier boulder. So the idea isn't to be free of problems. It's to find the biggest burden you can possibly carry and carry it. Find the best possible problem to solve.
Right.
And then if you do that in a way that's good for the people around you, that's it, bro. That's the end game. But to find things that make you afraid, and as you grow, and there are less things that make you afraid, you have to seek out those dark places of the forest. And it grows in scope as you grow.
That's wild.
Right?
That's fucking wild.
It's so much
Life's
fun,
crazy.
man. It is.
Life's
And
crazy.
that's why you have to honor everyone's path, because everyone
Exactly.
we'll use the
Yes.
dragon terminology. Whether you're a 13-year-old kid afraid to talk to the girl in middle school,
Mhm.
or you're opening up your own business, it doesn't change. Psychologically, you're still a being encountering novelty, and you're afraid, but if you do so productively, you'll become more and grow.
Mhm.
That's what we're all doing. And it doesn't really matter. I'm less concerned now with the forms, whether it's jujitsu or, entertainment, but just that you're doing it. That's what matters.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to manifest in whatever
Or
you're
go
supposed
do
to.
it. Or go and do it.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. That's what
Yeah.
matters. The forms don't. It's doing it that matters. Becoming matters.
Just get it done.
Yeah.
Do it.
Just get it done.
Just take the jump. Just jump.
It's so easy to say, but when you do it, it only takes a moment.
It's very easy to say, but when you overthink something, it's hard. It
Bro.
makes your feet more and more glued to the ground.
Yes.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? When you just say fuck it, what do I have to lose?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is it? What is the girl gonna say no? Or what am I gonna? I'm not gonna get the job,
Yeah.
or whatever. I'm not gonna progress today. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's fine. They said no. All right. Completely fine. Move on to the next thing,
That's it.
or adjust to what you need to get done to get that yes.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? And it's completely fine. You're only as good as your last failure. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. If you're, my partner Trevor has a great modus operandi. If we're not failing, we're failing.
Right.
That's it, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the Taoist symbol of yin and yang, right? With the white paisley and the black
Right.
paisley. The line that runs through it, that's the path, with 1 foot in order and 1 foot in chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have 2 feet in chaos, you just get lost.
Right.
And 2 feet in order, you're not growing anymore. But walking that line, and that's where meaning is, to always be on the verge of failure. Because if you're not risking failure, you're not doing anything. You're staying where you've always been. It's doing the same guard pass that you've done your whole life.
Right.
Or doing the same submission over and over that you know you can do that you're not getting better at. But to always walk that fine line, to say, I'm going to pass to my right because I'm awful at it. I'm going to work on ankle locks because I keep getting ankle locked all the time.
Right.
And there's always something to be worked on. So you can just follow that middle way forever until you become whatever it is you're supposed to be.
It's crazy.
Right? And the humanities, whether it's religion or literature or even history, they've all been trying to tell us these things. It's just taking people like a Carl Jung or a Jordan Peterson
Mhm.
or Joseph Campbell to articulate it and say, this is what we've been trying to tell each other. Because, people do something, or I should say, the exceptional among us does something, and then everyone else embodies that behavior. And then that behavior is articulated in drama, and then it gets put into a religion. And then the philosophers stand on the foundation of religion and say, oh, hey, this is what we've been doing this whole time. The wisdom is hidden in all of the imagery, in all of the stories. And it's speaking to us now. And if we just learn that language, if you learn the language of symbolism and mythology, you can see something even if you're not a Christian and you see Jesus on a cross, you can see that and be like, yeah, I need to adopt more responsibility. I need to voluntarily confront the suffering in my life on behalf of the people around me.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you see an image of the Buddha, it's yo, I'm so focused on what happened 5 years ago or on the mortgage next month that I'm not here right now. I need to sit right here at this intersection between now and eternity. The images are trying to tell us what to do, and the stories, and it's hidden in things like Lion King. Any Disney movie is full of archetypal motifs.
Till this day, I wish I still watch Lion King, and I really watch Lion King every time.
The new one's coming out.
I know,
It's gonna
and
be cool.
I always pray that Mufasa's just not gonna die, and he fucking dies every time. At the same moment, he still dies. But you're absolutely right.
And right
You're
there,
absolutely
right?
right.
So Simba, the hero of that story, right, confronts the hostile brothers of Scar
Mhm.
and Mustafa,
Yeah.
and that the hero has to transcend culture, right? Because we're nested in there's a knower, a known, and an unknown, and they're concentric circles working out.
Right.
And the known is the hero. I'm sorry, the knower is the hero, and the known is culture, and the unknown is Mother Nature. And Simba is the hero, and his dad is Father Culture. And it's when he loses the foundation of culture that he's forced to go out into Mother Nature and become that hero and come back and revivify his culture and find Nala, right? There's always the archetype of the woman.
Mm-hmm.
Simba would not have become the king had his dad still been the king. You know, and those motifs are across every movie. I can't wait till we have kids because, dude, I'm gonna watch these. I'm gonna leading questions for like my kids. You know, like 4 years old. Like, you know, who's the hero right now? What should they do? What's the path forward? Because
they're gonna kick your kids out of kindergarten, bro, because they're gonna be too smart.
Like, how early is it to talk about Plato's allegory of the cave with a child? Like, those are the things that I think about, man.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I love it.
And then I look forward to seeing it through their eyes because, you know,
right.
That's the gift of having a kid is you get to see the world again, clean slate. That's gonna be fun for us,
dude. You're gonna learn so much. You know, I don't have kids, but you know, when I hang out with Eddie and Frankie, or you know, any of the boys at Marlin, you know, that have kids, they're like, man, I learned so much from my kids. It's incredible.
Yeah.
You know, and I never thought I would. You know, you're just not knowledgeable on that, not having it. You know, but you look at that and that's your seed. You know, and they slowly do things when you were a kid the same way. You know what I mean? So they learn so much, and it's cool to see. Like, man, I love my kids so much, and I love watching them and just learning from them, and just you know, seeing how they go about things and how they figure it out on their self before they ask me, or you know what I mean? Yeah. It's cool.
It's a freedom from ourselves. Because
right.
The moment we have a kid, we're not the most important person.
That's it.
You're here for something else.
You're at the bottom.
Yeah, bro. You're the foundation. Yeah, on which they grow. And that's a cool idea too. We talk a lot about heroes. Like, the role of the hero is to go off into the unknown, find some great treasure, return to his community, and improve the community.
Right.
So the community's job is to support the cultivation of heroes, and the hero's job is to raise the community. It's that cyclical wheel.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to be essentially, you know, the hero. But then we're going to have kids, and we get to be the foundation for the next hero.
Right.
Passing the torch of humanity forward.
Right.
That's a beautiful thing. That's going to be fun.
Life's crazy, man. I love it. Final words? Final words?
Dude, just
give me something good out of the mind of Chris Matakas.
I have, you know, we've known each other for like 10, 11 years now. And, bro, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of who you've become.
Thank you,
the choices you've made, man. You're always working. You know, your work ethic is inspiring. And it's always cool to hear you choose your own path. Like, I remember when you were dealing with the retirement stuff,
right,
and now the injury, but you have a strong idea of where you're supposed to go, and if you don't know, you have a strong idea that you're supposed to go somewhere.
Right.
And I love that, man. That's an awesome thing, and you keep your family close.
Yeah, man. You know, it's cool when if he's still awake, bring my cousin around, and he's super, super smart, and, you know, he's building his own life down at Rutgers. He goes to college and stuff, but I feel like, you know, there's important things to everyone, you know, and everybody's important thing is different.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it's just having my family, making sure, you know, I'd never let them down and I keep them close, but I'm also the best person that I can be. Yeah. You know, and I appreciate that, dude. And I'm super, super proud of you. And I'm super proud of, you know, us, you know, as men and individuals who've grown together, you know, and even though, like, you know, we text once in a while to each other, but we keep up to date with our Instagrams and whatnot, and seeing, you know, I've been watching you grow, dude, over the years. You know, just because I haven't been here doesn't mean, you know, I'm not watching. I'm still here, you know, and I'm thoroughly impressed and proud of you as well with your school, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Likewise.
You know, I hope you take over this whole plaza and just have
That's the plan.
You know,
place of wellness
a
for
jiu-jitsu mall, you know, a jiu-jitsu mall out here, because I mean, they couldn't ask for a better person to be the head of this and run this bad boy.
Appreciate that.
You know, so thank you so much for coming on, dude.
Bro, thank you.
You know,
great to catch up.
I really appreciate you coming on, and that was super influential, what you just broke down to me in life, and it's exactly what we were looking for, bro. So I appreciate it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap up our podcast today. 2 hours, dude. That was pretty good.
Great job.
Yeah, 2 hours. This will be up later on today. We hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget, I got a few more coming out this week. I don't think I'm going to keep the weekly podcast going, just because there's people hitting me up all the time. Excuse me, burping. Hit me up all the time to record. So I'm kind of just want to just jump on them as quick as possible, because we've been planning this for 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like schedules are kind of hard. So when people hit me up and they want to record, I kind of just clear my schedule and let's do it, because if we don't do it now, I don't know when we're gonna, because my schedule is crazy. Everybody else's schedule is crazy, especially with the professionals that I'm working with.
Yeah.
You know, so plus they have lives. You know, so I'm not trying to interfere with anything like that. So that being said, I'm definitely gonna have podcasts out every week. You might get 1, you might get 3, you might get 4, but I definitely want to hit number 20 before the end of this month. So that's my big time goal, and that's been on my vision board since last year. So since I started this bad boy, so we're gonna hit number 20 this year. This Sunday we're gonna video record. So it's a lot of things going on in Frankie and the 4Fs, famous fighting females and fear. Now that I remember it. So Chris, thanks again, and make sure you guys leave a review on the website teamfrankieperez.com. under the 4Fs, and that's where all the last podcasts were. We're also on Spotify, Breaker, Google Cast, and iTunes, of course. Guys, remember, stay happy, stay smiling, stay positive. We'll catch you guys.
Now tuned in with Frankie and the 4Fs. Come on. The only podcast giving you the latest news on famous people, fighting, females, and fear. It's Frankie and the 4Fs.